policemen were coming out of her apartment.
A tenant with a history of trouble.
And I went over to the apartment to find out what had happened. She lit a cigarette and threw it in my face.
But this landlord is an ex-cop.
I did what I instinctively been trained to do.
So you put her in a chokehold?
I was in and out of consciousness. I went to the emergency room, and I have...
Had you been previously served with an eviction notice?
Judge Judy.
You wouldn't know the truth. A tenant in an apartment complex that was managed by the defendant.
Correct.
And it is your claim that he assaulted you.
Yes.
Mr. Farrar says that you was served with an eviction notice, and you, in fact, assaulted him and one of his employees. He is counterclaiming. How long had you been living in this complex?
I lived in that complex for approximately 2 years and about 4 months.
And who did you live with?
A roommate of mine.
When did Mr. Farrar come to work at the complex?
December 19th of '03, and the incident with Mr. Farrar and me happened on January 23rd of '04.
So describe the incident, please.
I was walking out of my apartment on January 23rd, and Mr. Farrar, I noticed that a balled up piece of paper hit me in the back. I turned around, and I seen him along with one of his witnesses over there.
Which one?
Mrs. Farrar. Now, they said they're separated.
Who was Mrs. Farrar?
That's the first one there.
Okay.
Okay, and I turned around, and I said, "Did you throw that paper at me? You're so childish." And he followed me into the underground parking lot, antagonizing me, distorting me, saying a lot of different things to me. I can't wait till you get out of here. You know, he started to say, I have a recorder in my pocket. I'm going to try to get you arrested, you know. So I kind of rushed and got in my car. I was very afraid of this man. I couldn't even leave anywhere. I was so distraught. I went back into my house once I knew they were out of the underground parking lot.
So you were sitting in your car, and then you decided not to go out anymore, and you went back up to your apartment.
Yes, to go tell my roommate what happened.
Go ahead.
I went to go walk my dog. A lady out of the office came out and said, are you supposed to be walking your dog up front? What are you doing up here? And 5 minutes later, out of nowhere, this gentleman came and placed me into this chokehold.
You mean he just came out of nowhere?
He came out of nowhere. I did not see him coming. That's the whole thing about it. I didn't have an opportunity to even touch him with my pinky if I wanted to.
Okay, so he came up from behind you.
He came up from, yes, from the
came up from behind you and placed you in a chokehold.
Yes.
What happened next?
Ma'am, he had me so tight. I was in and out of consciousness. I remember being slammed onto the floor. I remember that woman right there, Mrs. Farrar, kicking my keys, kicking my shoes, because my shoes fell off. And he's screaming penal codes, telling her to go call the police. She needs to get arrested for this or that and the other. And
what kind of documentation do you have, Miss Hughes?
I have the pictures with my assault bruises that I had. I have my, I went to the emergency room, and I have...
I'd like to see everything that you have.
Okay.
Gotcha. Now, you are not still living at the complex, is that right? When did you move?
3 days after that incident on 123.
Had you been previously served with an eviction notice?
Yes.
When?
November, the beginning of November.
November of 2003.
Yes.
Prior to him beginning employment there, you were served with an eviction notice for what?
Payment due.
You had not paid rent?
Correct.
How long had you not paid rent?
It was 2 months, actually.
Any reason why you didn't pay rent?
Well, my roommate could not come up with her half. Her mother just died. She was going through a lot of financial problems, and I could not fork her half of the rent.
So you didn't pay anything?
No, they would not accept any partial payments, ma'am.
Well, you could have paid if in October you didn't pay your half. In November, you could have paid your half of November and your half of October. That would have been a whole month.
Yeah, that's true.
So you decided if your roommate couldn't pay anything, you weren't going to pay anything either. Is that right?
Basically.
Basically. Okay. All right, Mr. Farrar, let me hear your version of these events, sir.
Well, if she's right, we did go down into the garage, and I was with Norma.
Who's Norma?
Norma's my former wife and now an employee. We were married 20 years ago. And I already had an altercation with her about a week before that.
What kind of an altercation?
About 8 policemen were coming out of her apartment, and I went over to the apartment to find out what had happened. And she lit a cigarette. She said, "It's none of your business," and threw it in my face. And then her roommate pulled her back in and shut the door.
Don't speak. Don't
Pulled her
speak.
back in and shut the door. So I checked with some of the fellows in the police department to find out what had been going on in that apartment, and I found out that there was a numerous calls there, something like 41 calls in 2 years.
You have the
Yes, I
log
do.
of those calls?
I do. I have
What
some
were
of
the
them.
calls for, Miss Hughes?
Oh, I'd like to see him myself, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him myself the day that he's talking about.
No, I'm
the day
not
the police
talking
did
about-
come,
And
my
there's her,
8-year-old
there's
daughter
her-
called the police
Listen
by
to me, Miss
accident.
Hughes. I didn't
But I
ask
like
you-
I like a
I
log of
didn't-
the 41 calls.
I didn't ask you about the day. I said I'm just asking you whether...
One of them involved weapons.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You wouldn't know the truth if it came up and bit you in the behind. You're not going to take advantage of the judicial system by seeking redress in the court for something that your bad behavior started.
And later today,
What is it that you did to your son when you found out that he stole this phone?
Whooped him.
Did you ever steal anything before?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
Car.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Andrea Hughes claims she was assaulted by her former landlord, James Farrar. James says Andrea is looking for a free ride.
There are a lot of calls here to your apartment, madam.
You know, I personally have seen the police at my house twice.
Good. Okay, that's all. Would you please tell me what happened on January 23rd, 04, sir? You and your wife followed her down to the garage for any particular ex-wife, for any particular reason?
Yeah, I was going down there to look at some work being done on the elevators. We had the elevators remodeled. They were in bad shape. And her car was to the right. I was going to the left. She got in the car, and she opened the trunk, or she got to the trunk area, opened the trunk, and started throwing stuff out into the garage area. And then, of course, there was a lot of bad, blistering language going on at the time in reference to my previous marriage with Norma. She got in her car and peeled out, went out the gate. That's the last I saw her. So I finished checking on the work, went back up to the office area.
Listen to me. I don't want you to say anything.
Wow.
I went back over to the other garage where the manager at that time, Stellar On, was were waiting for her to come. So Stellar pulls in, maybe 10 minutes after she left, not even that. So we left, went back to the office area, and there she was with a dog. And the dog was urinating on the planter at the time. She was smoking a cigarette and had the door open. That day, she had a TRO dropped by Stellar On.
Who's Stellar On?
She was the existing manager at the time.
So the existing manager of the building had a restraining order against Miss Hughes?
Yes.
May I see a copy of it, please?
I don't have it because they dropped it because she
They
couldn't
dropped it
articulate.
twice.
But I do have 2 restraining orders on tenants
They
at the
dropped it
building.
twice.
May I see them, please?
Sure. These are people she assaulted during her tenancy there. These are still enforced, by the way. 2 of my witnesses that couldn't make it today.
I have temporary restraining orders issued. You were the defendant, Miss Hughes. The protected persons are somebody by the name of Sean and Adam.
We had parking issues there in the underground parking.
Okay. Shh. I just asked you.
Yes,
Question.
correct.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Farrar.
Anyways, I came back, and she was talking to Stellar at the time at first, and Stellar told her to put her dog on a leash. And she said, with a cigarette right at Stellar, "I don't have to do any damn thing I don't want to do." And I'm going to leave out the profanity as best I can. But it would have blistered the doggone walls of this room. It's that bad. So I asked her, please leave the area, go to your apartment. We had mothers and children.
Whatever.
coming.
You told her to
Okay.
get. You told her to get out, and I wouldn't.
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
I
told her to get
go
out.
back to her apartment and get out of there. So
Go ahead.
3 or 4
Keep going.
times. Finally, she said she wasn't going to leave. And I placed her under citizen's arrest for 415 PC, which is disturbance of peace.
Okay.
I told Stellar to call the Torrance Police Department and have them roll.
And?
At that point, I'm standing here, she's standing there, the office corner is here, Norma's here, and Stellar's looking around the corner. She tried to step around me going towards the direction of the 2 managers. I did what I instinctively been trained to do. I stood in her way. And when I did, Her body went
They
into me.
didn't train you to put a chokehold on someone,
Hughes,
sir, and
Miss
take them to
Hughes,
the ground.
Miss Hughes.
That's not what the police department
Miss
trained
Hughes.
you to do.
Do you see how quiet he was when you were speaking?
He's thinking of his lies very good.
Madam, you wouldn't know the truth if it came up and slapped you in the face. You got a bad temper, Miss Hughes. Everybody who has contact with you seems to have a problem with you, and you have no problem with anybody. You had no problem with the prior building managers. You have no problem with the tenants.
I know I had
No,
never
you have
had
any
any problem.
And you had no problem paying your rent, and you had no problem living like a good tenant. You had no problem at all.
Me paying my rent doesn't have anything to do with me physically getting harmed, ma'am.
Oh, yes, it does, madam. Yes, it does. There's a certain entitlement that one thinks that one has when you believe that you can take property, take things that don't belong to you without payment, like a place to live, and say, sue me. Go ahead. It's going to take you 3-4 months to get me out of this apartment. Meanwhile, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to make a big, fat pain in the for myself, which is exactly what you did. Exactly. Because when you were telling me your side of the story, I was listening. I was perfectly prepared to listen to you and to say maybe this man overextended, maybe this man who was a former police officer or a peace officer got a little carried away with himself. But I was watching you testify, and you wouldn't know the truth if it came up and bit you in the behind. And I want to tell you something. You're not going to take advantage of the judicial system by seeking redress in the court for something that your bad behavior started. So your lawsuit's dismissed. Now, I'm going to get to your counterclaim. But for the fact that she filed this lawsuit, would you be here today?
No.
Good. So
No,
let's say goodbye to each other. She's no longer a tenant, is that right?
That's
Good. Goodbye.
right.
Your case is dismissed and
wanna
your
be a
counterclaim
tenant.
is withdrawn. Thank you
Your
very
Honor.
much.
That's so great in your lives.
Step
You
out.
are so great. I was a very good tenant. He was the one that just came aboard. I'd been there for 2.5 years. If I wasn't a good tenant, I wouldn't have been there that long.
She actually had most of the building in fear, and this is a 90-unit building.
There's no criminal charges against anyone that lived in that household. Rather, there was 100 of 911 phone calls.
She's being sentenced tomorrow morning for a felony, domestic violence, where she took a knife to her roommate.
That man assaulted me, and he knows he assaulted me. He knows he snuck up on me and assaulted me for no reason at all.
It's just a pity that a young woman her age can't control her rage and her anger, that tries to intimidate her way through life, and this is what she's been doing. And Judge Judy saw right through it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Thomas versus Green. Step forward.
Account manager Lizette Thomas is suing her nephew's uncle, customer service rep Antonio Green Sr., for a $1,700 cell phone bill. Lizette says Antonio's son stole her nephew's phone and gave it to a girl.
No, I'd like these two young men to come and stand next to their respective parents, guardians. This is your nephew,
Correct.
and you gave him a cell phone
Yes.
so that he could be in touch with you for emergencies.
Yes.
He lost it.
Correct.
And somehow, Mr. Green's son found it. And according to you, Mr. Green's son gave it away.
Yes.
And whoever he gave it away to had a very big mouth. And you got a phone bill for how much?
$1,700.
$1,700. So you want Mr. Green to be responsible for that.
Yes.
Mr. Green says, I didn't use the cell phone. My son didn't use the cell phone. Why should he be responsible?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
When did your aunt give you the cell phone?
Late July,
And why did she give you the cell phone?
for emergencies.
How long did you have it?
About a month.
Until late August?
Yes.
And what happened to it?
I gave it to my coach. We went to a game, and I asked him to hold it, and I left it with him, and we all left.
So what did you do?
I called him and asked him, did he have it? He said yes. I asked him, could he hold it for me? He said yes.
When did you go and get it from him?
I didn't.
Oh, why not?
Because I thought if I told my parents, they were going to think I was irresponsible.
That doesn't make sense, what you just said to me. Could you get there by bus?
Yes.
So why didn't you run right over and get it?
I wasn't thinking that time.
Right! You weren't thinking. Now, what's your first name?
Antonio,
Antonio, how did you get this phone?
I found it in the coach bag and I gave it to this girl trying to impress her.
Just, okay. Don't go through. We have to do this slowly because I have to get things step by step. You found it in the coach's bag when?
Around late August, around the 28th, during the 1st of September.
When you say you found it in the coach's bag, what were you doing in the coach's bag?
Just going in it, sneaking around.
So you stole the phone out of the bag.
Right.
And what did you do with it when you stole the phone out of the bag?
I gave it to this girl. At that time, was my girlfriend.
And what did you say to her?
I gave her the phone, told her she could use it.
So, Mr. Green.
Yes, ma'am.
See, this is something he didn't put in his answer, that he stole the phone.
Well, yes, I knew that he retrieved the phone.
Not retrieved.
Well, stole the phone
Stole it.
around November when I got the call from Miss Thomas.
Stole it.
Right.
So what is it that you did to your son when you found out that he stole this phone?
Can I say on air?
Yes.
I whipped him.
How old are you, Antonio?
16.
You go to school?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you do in school?
Good.
Did you ever steal anything before?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
Cars.
How many?
2 of them.
And when you went to court, did your father go with you?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have, Mr. Thomas?
2, ma'am.
How old are they?
He's 16 and my daughter's 15.
She give you any trouble?
No.
So what are you doing about Mr. Trouble?
Well, right now he's in rehabilitation programs in the city, doing counseling session, peer mentoring programs appointed by the court, urine drops and things like that.
He had a drug problem?
Yes, they said he did.
If they said he did, he probably did.
Of course, he denied that, but they said he did.
Well, he's right out here telling me everything that he did. That's a good thing, because he probably knows that I know anyway.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So you better get pretty busy, because you owe this lady $1,700.
Yes, ma'am.
You stole the phone, you gave it to somebody, and you lied to them and said, I got you this phone, you can use it. They used it, as you told them to. I mean, the fact that you couldn't get your behind out of your room to get on a bus and go pick up the phone doesn't make you a prince. Do you understand that?
Yes.
But, I mean, it's your stupidity, but he did it on purpose. He stole it. And then he gave it away, and he said, I bought your present, use it. And you shouldn't have to suffer for that. Mr. Green shouldn't have to suffer for that either. What Mr. Green has to do is he has to harness this boy and send him out there to collect cans, 5 cents a piece, if that's all he can do. Because somehow you got to impress upon him that when he does something wrong, the whole world can't suffer. He's got to suffer.
Right.
You have to suffer. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,700. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I was wrong and I was being irresponsible, so I'm happy for them.
I thought the phone was just gonna sit in the bag and maybe the bill will stay low.
Eventually, I thought it would never come up.
I know I'm irresponsible, but I'm glad it came out the way it came out.
With regards to the young lady, a $1,700 phone bill, and maybe she called him twice, so he was getting played either way.
He irresponsibly let it get out of his hands, and it got into the wrong hands. But the judgment was in my favor, and I'm very pleased.
You rescued this dog from a shelter.
He loved dogs to death.
My roommate passed away. It was in her will that all of her animals be put to sleep and...
Yeah, this case number 121 on the calendar in the matter of Vaughn versus Peck. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, folks.
Mr. Vaughn, let me try to understand what your lawsuit is about. According to what I've read, you rescued this dog, I assume, from a shelter.
Yes, ma'am, from a city shelter.
And then you turned the dog over to the defendant's shelter for the purposes of being, I assume, adopted.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that was months ago. And now you want the dog back. Ms. Peck says she's not going to give you the dog back because she's afraid that what you really want to do is to have the dog euthanized, because you've done that before with other animals. And she said the whole problem is that you were interested in her socially, and that since she rebuffed your advances socially, you want to get even by taking the dog back. Something like that. Is that right? Okay. I understand, Mr. Vaughn, according to you, that you've donated a substantial amount of money to Miss Peck's shelter. Is that true?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
How much money have you donated to Miss Peck's shelter?
Roughly $60,000 to $80,000.
You have proof of that, sir?
Yes, I do, Your
I'd
Honor.
like to see it.
Your Honor, may I say something?
I just want to see his proof that he's donated that kind of money to your shelter. Okay. How did you become interested in this rescue, in this Chihuahua rescue, Mr. Vaughn?
Well, about a little over 8 years ago, my roommate and I adopted Chihuahuas from Miss Peck here. We adopted the ones that she says could not be adopted out because they were aggressive, they were biters, and we adopted them.
How many did you adopt?
Probably around 4, maybe 5 at the most.
Did you have any of them euthanized?
Yes, Your Honor. After my roommate passed away, it was in her will that all of her animals be put to sleep, cremated, and buried with her. I took it upon myself. She loved her animals, and she did not want them to be turned back over to Miss Peck.
Why didn't you take care of them?
Well, 17 Chihuahuas is a lot of Chihuahuas.
So you euthanized 17
No,
Chihuahuas?
I had 9 Chihuahuas, the ones that were under medication and have had a beautiful, healthy, happy life, and were getting sickly. The older ones, I had them put to sleep.
How many?
9 of them. They was cremated, and they was buried with Miss Peg in a pet cemetery.
She was buried in a pet cemetery?
Yes. That was her wish and her will.
Why do you want this dog back?
I want this dog back to where I can take care of it and give it a proper home at my house.
Why did you give it away in the first place?
Well, I adopted the dog from a city animal shelter because it had mange problems. I wanted it to have a chance to get a good home out in the public and not be euthanized at the shelter because of its condition.
Okay.
I then took it straight to a vet, which I have papers of ownership and the vet
I
records.
understand. Sir, you turned the dog over to the defendant. Why do you want the dog back now?
Because the dog was not adopted out as it was planned, and the dog did not receive proper medication as it should have, and was quarantined in a little small cages, roughly 2 foot by 2 foot. And it's not right for an animal to be confined like that on top of another cage with animals under it.
I'll hear you. When did he turn the dog over to you?
In December.
Okay, is there any reason why this puppy has not been adopted?
He and the witness who's with him now actually adopted the dog a long time ago from a city shelter, and they broke up. And when they broke up, George gave us the dog to care for. I should probably call the veterinarian who can explain the condition of this dog.
Is there a veterinarian here?
Yes, Dr. Hahn. Could you explain?
Could you step up, please? What kind of skin condition does this puppy have?
He's got a condition called demodectic mange, which is a little like mite that lives in the hair follicles, and he's got Seborrhea oleosa, which is like a...
And there's nothing you can do for him to get him better?
You can control it, but you can't cure it. Well, the mites you can cure in some cases. With him, he's been a real problem because he has a real bad case of it, and it may never be able to be cleared up. But the Seborrhea will always be with him, and it's just a control measures that you have to do to make him feel better, like bathing him regularly. And
do they do that at the shelter?
Kimi does it, yes, Your Honor.
Is it a male or female?
Male.
Male. Does he ever get to go home with somebody, or is he in a cage all the time?
We have a sanctuary as well as a rescue organization. Some dogs I evaluate and I give them a lot of time. If I don't feel they're adoptable, if I don't feel there's going to be someone that I can trust to treat this dog the rest of his life, he will stay in a sanctuary where he will be loved. He will have a lot of volunteers. We're open to the public. This dog I would have to find a very special person for if we were to place him. Mm-hmm. I'd have to do home checks. I'd have to do surprise home checks the rest of his life.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor, when I adopted the dog from the shelter, I took it straight to my vet. He treated the dog, and then the dog, after it was treated, came back to Miss Anderson's house, my witness, and she took care of the dog until it was well enough to be neutered.
So?
And then the dog was neutered in November the 7th.
So?
And then it was taken to Miss Peck's place.
The question is why?
Why?
Yeah.
The dog was
I
turned
mean, did
over
the two of you, were you living with this lady?
No, no, ma'am, I'm not. She's a good friend. She's an animal groomer. She does medicate and take care of animals.
Okay, but she didn't want the dog.
Can I speak?
What?
When I'm the one that found the dog at the animal shelter.
So?
I told him, he went in and rescued him.
Good.
He took him to me. We took him to the vet. I'm the one that initiated his care. And by the way, these dogs, demodectic mange is not end stage, and it is treatable, and it is curable.
Okay, good.
Because I have many.
My question to you is, you did not want the dog.
We bailed it out to put it up for adoption.
Okay, well,
at
that's
the time,
what was done.
I had a venue where I adopted him, where I tried to adopt him. We lost that venue. He took him to her, hoping he would get adopted out.
Oh,
that hasn't happened.
Oh, listen to me. All I am saying to you is, you did not want this dog.
If we hadn't have been able to find a suitable home, either one of us would be willing to keep him.
Sit down. You can have a seat, Dr. Hahn. Thank you. This is my problem. It is clear from what you tell me that you were not interested in keeping this dog for yourself, but that you wanted the dog cared for initially by the defendant and adopted by someone else and cared for by someone else. Ordinarily, if you said to me, well, they haven't been able to adopt this dog out because of the condition, I want the dog back now, I might say, well, that sounds like a better plan than keeping the dog for the next 10 years in a situation where occasionally it'll have a play date, but for a good part of the time it's kept in a locked situation. But I think it's nutty to have euthanized 9 dogs to be cremated and buried because some old lady says that that's her last wish. And you comply with that wish and kill 9 and have 9 dogs that weren't all ready to go at the same time, buried with this lady's ashes in a dog cemetery. That, Mr. Vaughn, is a little kooky to me, sir. And I, Mr. Vaughn, quite frankly, would not sleep well if I turned this dog over to you. So I'm dismissing your lawsuit. Do you understand? You're not getting the dog back, and you're not getting $1,500 back, because anybody that can kill 9 dogs is not playing with a full deck. Goodbye. Thank you.
He was stalking me. He was driving by the kennel. He was threatening to harm me and all of our dogs.
She's got an issue with people that she cannot control.
He had asked me to marry him, and I don't know if this is about rejection or seems suspicious.
Why would I propose to someone married to a man, plus living with another man? Why would I want to get tangled up in something like that?
She was very quick, and she went right to the point, and I'm thrilled, and I'm so happy for this dog.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Williams versus Williams. Step forward, please.
25-year-old law student Michael Williams is suing his ex-girlfriend, homemaker Elaine Williams, for money owed due to breach of contract. Michael says Elaine promised not to throw him out of the house.
Mr. Williams, you're not related to the defendant, are you?
No, ma'am.
According to what I read, she was a family friend. You rented a room from her. You claim a breach of contract for some nonsense, and then a loan to her in a small amount, $150 or $250. Miss Williams says she never had a contract with you for anything, and she never borrowed any money from you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you known Miss Williams?
June of last year.
What happened last June, Mr. Williams?
I knew she was renting a room, so I went to her house, her apartment in June. We talked. She said she would rent the room out to me. While I was there, I was appreciative that I had the room, because I am a student trying to go to school, and she didn't charge too much for rent. Unfortunately, her feelings for me started to grow, and in the process of her feelings getting in the way, she started getting violent. Her violence was taking over. I couldn't handle the violence anymore, so at the end of that year, which was in December, I left.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me,
yes, no,
smart
no
mouth.
No, ma'am, I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm not trying to have a smart mouth, and that's...
Well, then I want you to be quiet,
yes,
because when I'm speaking, I'm the only person who speaks.
Yes, ma'am.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michael Williams says he had a deal with former live-in girlfriend Elaine Williams. Michael says Elaine agreed to pay him if she wanted him to move out.
Go ahead.
I left, and then about 2 weeks after I left, she called me talking about she missed my company. She wanted me to come back. She wouldn't care who I have over for company, male, female, whatever. She didn't mind. She would reduce my rent, and she would give me about 2 or 3 months free. When I moved back, I made sure everything was clear. I let her know I was going to tape record her because she lies a lot. I put the tape recorder on the table. I said, Mrs. Williams, you are aware that we are recording. Oh, yes, okay, okay. She agreed to everything.
And that's what's on that tape recording?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'd like to hear that.
Now, Elaine. Fine now. Babe, what's today's date? Sunday, the 18th. Are you aware that we are recording right now? Yes. Okay. And where we at? We're in the kitchen, right? And the tape recorder's on. Now, are you sure you want me back here? I know I'm here now, my stuff is here, but if you don't want me here, I do not mind packing my stuff and leaving. I will still be your friend. I'm not going to say, well, since you don't want me here, I'm going to press charges. No, I'm not going to press charges because of that. I agreed to drop the charges on Monday. I won't press the charges Monday. I know you can do that. Okay, well, I'm right here on tape. It is recording right now. The question I'm asking you is, are you sure you want me to be here, living here at this house with you for at least another 6 months? Yes, I thought you just interviewed me before. Why you make me repeat myself? Yes, before. Why you make me repeat myself? I'm making sure you remember what you told me. You want to talk me? No, I'm making sure you remember what you told me, and I'm making sure you haven't changed your mind. I would agree to pay you $200 a month for rent, and I will take my 2 months rent for free. That ain't no money. Now you're trying to... No, ma'am, I'm not. Let it be known for the record, I'm not trying to cheat Elaine. Who are you going to put that tape to? It depends on my business in the street. Whoever say I'm lying. No problem, okay? I agree. Okay, I agree not to take the 3 months free. I'll take the 2 months.
Sorry for too so long to get to that part, ma'am. But it is on the tape.
I don't care whether it's on the
yes,
tape
I'm just
or
letting you
not.
know that it is on tape, and she did say it.
I don't care whether it's... Listen to me very carefully, Mr. Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't care if it's on the tape or
yes,
not.
Ma'am.
Miss Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
47. My birthday was June the 3rd.
Okay. And how do you support yourself?
Well, right now, I do home care for some people that I know, and I go to Irvin Lee. I'm in computers, mathematics, and English at Irvin Lee.
So they're trying to teach you a trade?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you get any kind of disability, any kind of Social Security?
No, well, just my baby gets some money, and my baby father's sending some money from Cleveland, Ohio.
And when was the last time you were employed on a full-time basis?
Oh, I worked for Afro bail bondsman, but I was living by Southwest Police Department. I was working for him. Everything was going all right till he wanted to turn the job into loving. So I know you want to hear that, so I left.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
You said that you were going to school?
Yes.
What kind of school do you go to?
I go to El Camino Community College.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
A lawyer.
And you think that this created a contract?
Yes, ma'am.
It didn't.
In my eyes, it's documented evidence that we agreed upon.
I don't care what it is in your eyes. Get glasses.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me explain to you very briefly, sir, what a contract is. Either a contract that is written or a contract that is oral. The first thing that you have to have in a contract is a meeting of the minds. That's the first thing. And if you ever get to law school, your contract professor is going to tell you that you cannot have a valid, binding contract unless two people have a meeting of the minds. And for a variety of sundry reasons, Mr. Williams, you and this lady did not have a meeting of your respective minds.
Oh, yes, ma'am, yes, we did. I'm sorry I didn't get to that point, but yes, we did.
No.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
No, you didn't, sir, because I'm not quite sure that each of you had the equipment. I heard nothing on this tape recording that suggests to me that there was ever a meeting of the minds, which is a prerequisite to having a contract.
You didn't get that far.
Because that's what I heard enough.
No, ma'am, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. You're a hustler.
No, ma'am.
You're a hustler.
Okay.
You're a hustler, and you're taking advantage of her. And if you didn't want, put your hand down. And if you didn't want to move back in with her, then you don't move back in with her. And if you felt as if she was taking advantage of you, then go find someplace else to live. Now, you had a complaint against her, and you said that you were going to notify the district attorney that you weren't going to proceed so she wouldn't have to go to jail. What kind of a complaint did you have against her, sir?
That might have been either the criminal threats or the assault and battery.
And you were willing to drop those charges against her if she told you could come back and give you a few months free rent and reduce your rent to $200. Is that what? That's what you told her on the machine?
That's not how it was.
Oh, yes, that's exactly what you told her. That was your voice.
No, it wasn't like that.
That was your voice.
Yes, I
because
said
somebody
that,
listened to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Smart mouth.
No, ma'am. I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm not trying to have a smart mouth in that sense.
Well, then I want you to be quiet.
Yes,
because when I'm speaking, I'm the only person who speaks.
Yes, ma'am.
If somebody complains to the police and to the district attorney that they are in fear of their safety because someone has assaulted them, threatened them, battered them, they don't go back to that house in an attempt to negotiate a lower rent. Do you understand, sir? That doesn't make any sense.
Ma'am, she called me offering
I don't care if she called you. What difference does it make if she called you? You say, don't call me, I'm afraid of you.
Michael,
and if you call me again, I'm speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you call me again, I'm going to call the district attorney and the police because I'm afraid of you. You assaulted me. You don't say, well, I'll come back and I'm not afraid of you if you agree to give me a reduction in rent and a couple of months free. Do you understand, Mr. Williams?
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
Goodbye. Go get a life. That's all. Case dismissed.
Why did y'all excuse you? May step out.
It started off as a roommate situation, but her feelings for me grew. You know, things happened that I don't even want to discuss.
I mean, it's something happened that shouldn't have happened. And maybe we could have been friends and it wouldn't have happened.
She wanted more, and I gave her more.
She called me when I was on drinking my Hennessy. I was in the kitchen cooking. I ain't knew coming out with no tape recorder.
It kind of devastated, man. You know what I'm saying? She, nothing but turmoil.
Oh, like my mama said, never, two women can live in one house.
I do everything I possibly can to make my establishment safe.
There's been a history of people trying to bring guns and knives into the club. On this night, your security didn't work.
A night no one will forget.
It seemed like several fights just broke out. Everybody was running.
There was a stampede to the door, and you were injured.
I think she's lying.
How many people ran out of the club that evening?
Judge Judy.
They don't have guns, they don't have knives. Not in.
Well, I can't see the carpet.
Where that bar stool goes down, right before he had it fixed, it was split right there where the carpets meet on both sides, where if you can tell the rail that goes down the middle, it used to be bulged. It had a rubber mat that used to be there. He's removed that and smoothed it out and put the carpet there because I went last week, and it's been smoothed out, and it's not there anymore because I've almost tripped over it a time before when I've went.
That's not true, Your Honor. I've never done anything to that carpet. That carpet is one continuous piece. It's been put together with carpet tape. It's one continuous carpet. I do everything I possibly can to make my establishment safe.
I'm sure you do.
Mr.
Tatum, I'm sure you do. I have to make a judgment as to who I believe. She says she went back there and you had changed the contour of the carpet. And she describes exactly how you changed the contour of the carpet, Mr. Tatum. Now, I have some questions for Mr. Tate. Mr. Tate, there were between 80 and 100 people there that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
How many in security do you have?
It's 5 of us.
Okay. Were all 5 people there that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
And what do you do?
I make sure no one comes in that door. Everybody go out that door that she's talking about she fell at, and I make sure no one comes in. And if any altercations comes up, I help with those.
Well, what does that mean, Mr. Tate? That you make sure that everybody goes in and out of that door that she goes out of?
If they go out that door, they cannot come back in that one. They enter the door with the security warrant to check for any weapons, anything.
Yes.
You know, I wanted to add that when the fight broke out, the security wasn't trying to break up the fight. He just opened the door to make people run out. Sometimes I've even caught him running from a fight, Mr. Tatum.
That's a bold-faced lie right there, Your Honor.
Did you notice, Mr. Tatum, do you have insurance?
Yes, I do.
When you were notified by Miss Davidson that she fell, did you notify your insurance company?
Not right off, Your Honor. I don't believe it. I think she's lying. Like she's lying right there about me running from a fight. I don't need to run. I work out. I'm very well capable of taking care of myself.
Mr. Davidson,
and we know they don't have guns, they don't have knives.
I asked you a question.
So is this
what doesn't have guns and what doesn't have knives? He says he checks for guns and knives. So I assume that if you're checking for guns and knives, there's been a history of people trying to bring guns and knives into the club. I mean,
History
that's...
in other clubs, Your Honor, not in my club.
Mr. Tatum, your own employee says his function is to ensure when people come into the club that they do not bring in guns and knives. That's what he's searching for, correct?
Correct.
You're not searching their pocketbooks for turkeys, chickens, hens. You're not searching for that, are you?
No, ma'am.
No. You're searching for guns and knives. And the reason you're searching for guns and knives is because sometimes people try to bring in those weapons into a club. Is that right?
That's right.
Oh, right. Mr. Tatum.
I did my
I mean, I don't
research,
think
Your Honor.
I don't want you to think that I'm stupid, sir. I'm not a stupid person.
I wouldn't dare
That's
imply
why he's
that.
there. That's why he's there. He's there because there's been a history of people trying to bring guns and knives into the club, and he's there to ensure, hopefully, that that doesn't happen.
Right.
That's what he's there for. So
It's
don't
true.
say there are no guns and knives in the club.
We check for that, and because there are other clubs there. I'm not the only other club on there. I did my research. They have had shootings in other clubs. I've been there for 4 years. We've never had one in my club or mine.
Good. Why?
Because he just now letting younger people inside of his club.
I don't care what the reason is. That's a wonderful thing. But on this night, something happened, Mr. Tatum. On this night, your security didn't work.
Security worked fine.
No, it did not.
I was a part of the breakup.
Mr. Tatum, on this night, your security was not effective in ensuring that fights didn't break up in the club, and as a result of that, there was a stampede to the door. That is according to your own employee, who wouldn't dare think of lying to me, right?
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I really couldn't deal with the relationship and school and work. You know, we decided to separate at that point.
We did not decide that we were going to separate. She dumped me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Shanika Davidson says nightclub owner Charles Tatum owes for medical bills resulting from an accident in his club. Shanika says she tripped while fleeing from a brawl.
You were incapacitated for approximately 2 weeks?
Yes, Your Honor.
And were you able to work during those 2 weeks?
No, Your Honor. They had to find other people.
Okay. How much do you earn a day?
$125 a week.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I'd like to contend that this is something that's been started prior to my establishment starting, because we provide security, we provide electronic security. There's a club right down the street from my establishment that's been in business for 15 years. They don't provide no security. They don't even check. These people come to my establishment and react the same exact way that they go down to this other establishment, and because they don't have any security. They don't have a check for weapons. We do. There's no reason for not one person to leave. We have several security guards. I was in there. I broke up that fight. I was there when the mirror fell off the wall. The people run because that's what they do normally at the other club, because they don't know. They don't know where they have guns. They don't realize that they're in an establishment that can provide security. If they're running out of security.
Mr. Tatum.
Yes, ma'am.
Your argument is foolish, sir.
And there's no tear in that car.
And I don't believe that, sir. I believe this lady when she says that there was a tear in the carpeting, that it was smoothed over when she went. It was different when she went back to the club last week, different from the way it was on the night of April 30th. And I believe that there was some alteration. I don't believe you, Mr. Tatum, that you didn't fix the tear. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500, which is 10 times your actual damages, which were 125 times 2, which is $250 for the 2 weeks that you were out of work. I've made that times 10. That means 10 times your actual damages, $2,500. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Mr. Tatum has a really bad attitude, and I did not want to discuss my injuries because I knew he wouldn't be a reasonable person, because he is not a reasonable person.
She lied. She was a liar.
And it was 2 or 3 fights, because my cousin was the one who was fighting some of them.
I think she's lied. This is simple. You know, if she'd done that, she'd done it on her own. It was no negligence on my part or my people's part.
If he has adequate security, I've only seen 2 security guards there. One that checks you when you come in, and him waiting at the door to let you out when you go out.
Well, these need to keep, people need to go to church and learn to tell the truth.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ramsey versus Chapman, step forward, please.
24-year-old student Christopher Ramsey is suing his ex-fiancée, 21-year-old student Antoinette Chapman, for her tuition and the cost of living expenses. Christopher says Antoinette used him.
Mr. Ramsey, Miss Chapman was your girlfriend, and you lived together for a while, according to your complaint. It is your claim that she owes you money for support. She agreed to support you for your final year in college.
Yes.
Okay. When did you and Miss Chapman start to live together?
May 2003.
And how long had you dated before that?
About 3 years before that.
Were you both juniors in college at the time when you moved in May of 2003?
I was a junior and she was a senior.
Tell me about your agreement, Mr. Ramsey, and why you made the agreement.
We decided that I would sit out of school for 2 semesters and I would work 2 jobs, which I did. I worked approximately about 75 hours a week to support her while she went through school.
While she completed her senior year?
Yes.
Was that because you both ran out of money, or there wasn't enough money for both of you to go to school?
It was just an easier situation if one of us worked and one of us went to school, and it was fine because we planned on getting married.
Prior to May of 2003, had Miss Chapman been employed?
Yes, she was working at the Holiday Inn.
As what?
She did housekeeping there.
And after you made this agreement with her, did she continue to work?
Yes, she did.
Who was paying your tuition?
I had some financial aid, and any other expenses came out of whatever money we had in the household.
So what happened, Miss Chapman?
I was working still, and between school and work, it got really stressful, and I really couldn't deal with the relationship and school and work, and, you know, we decided to separate at that point.
Okay, and?
I felt that the agreement was for as long as we were together, and since we broke up, the agreement wasn't valid anymore.
Did you graduate?
Yes.
Well, so this is an interesting situation, isn't it?
It's a very interesting situation, and we did not decide that we were going to separate. She dumped me. That's the bottom line.
You have an obligation to support him in his last year of college while he's going to school. You can't say, well, I don't love you anymore, honey. You took care of me, and I finished the school, and here's my diploma. But now I don't love you anymore, and I have no responsibility. That is inequitable, it's unfair, it's unjust enrichment. You have an agreement. He fulfilled his obligation to his detriment by not going to school for that year, and you got to pay him. Minimally, you have to pay him. The maximum allowed by this court is $5,000, and minimally, 10 months at $500 a month, which is minimally what he will need to subsist, is, I believe, a fair judgment. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
I did what I can do for her. It came out as the judge ruled. She ruled in my favor, and I felt that it was very fair.
It just got to be too stressful, trying to deal with everything, and I needed a break, and I guess the relationship kind of started to fall apart with all of that.
She was taking an overload in school, and she was even working part-time. She was just stressed. She's honestly a nice person.
I mean, we haven't spoken since we broke up, and I don't see us speaking now. I mean, it's just, I wish him the best in the future, though.
I'm just gonna, you know, finish school and have some fun.
They're just children.
How long have you known each other?
Since 4th grade.
But on one fateful afternoon,
I was inside a pizza shop, and Pierre poured cheese all over my head, and I kicked him.
Where did you kick him? On his leg?
On his butt.
He gave me the finger like 5 to 6 times.
mozzarella meltdown.
He slammed my head onto the counter.
I pushed him like that.
He actually went like that.
Judge.
I want all the parents and guardians to have a seat, because you weren't there when it happened, right?
Right.
You don't know what happened. Only these 2 guys know what happened. So you're going to tell me all about it, right?
Right.
Tell me your name.
Anthony DiGirolamo.
And yours?
Pierre.
How old are you, Anthony?
12.
Pierre?
12.
How long have you known each other?
Since 4th grade.
Do you like each other?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you ever have any problems with each other?
No.
Yes.
What kind of problems did you have with Anthony?
He's calling me very rude names.
When did he start calling you names?
In the 4th grade when he came to the school.
But I thought you just told me you liked each other.
Well, yeah, I've been inviting him to stuff like birthday parties, movies, stuff like that.
Does he come?
Yeah.
Does he invite you?
No. He only invites...
Yeah.
Shh.
Yes, I do invite him to stuff. Like, I invited him to my birthday party in the 4th grade, and I invited him to another party, too.
When?
I think it was in the 4th grade, too.
So you're talking about 4 years ago?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about 4 years ago. I'm talking about yesterday.
Okay.
So since the 4th grade, you haven't invited him to anything?
Not really.
Has he invited you?
I think only once in 5th grade.
What about in 6th grade?
No.
Last year, he came to my birthday party in July.
Is that right?
I believe, yes.
Okay. So even though he called you names you didn't like, you still invited him to your party?
Right.
Now, why don't you tell me, Anthony, what happened on March the 2nd?
Okay. I was inside of a pizza shop, and Pierre and Christopher followed me inside. And when I ordered my food, I sat down, and Pierre poured cheese all over my head.
Where did you get the cheese from, Pierre?
It was in the pizzeria. It was Parmesan cheese.
You mean from one of those little glass containers? Yeah. And you shook the cheese out on his head?
No, I just put it on his ear.
Put it on his ear. Why did you do that?
Because right before outside the pizzeria, he was calling me a lot of names.
Were you doing that, Anthony?
I called him one time, and the reason why I called him the names was a few days before that. When I went inside the pizzeria, he would always, when I got up, he would always sit next to my book bag and not let me sit down. And sometimes him and Chris would take my book bag and run around the block with it so I couldn't get it.
So they had teased you a couple of days before?
Yes.
Is that right, Pierre?
No, he teases me.
Okay. So you put a little cheese on his ear. And then what did you do, Anthony?
Then I ran out after him and I kicked him.
Where were you both when you kicked him? Inside the pizza store or outside?
Outside.
And where did you kick him? On his leg?
On his butt.
You can't do that to somebody. That's an assault. You could have hurt him, right?
Right.
And then what did you do after you kicked him?
Then I went back into the pizzeria to get my food, right? And then I told him to go back to the sewer.
Well, just a second. You mean he followed you back into the pizzeria?
Right.
And what happened next?
And then I was standing at the counter, and he came up to me, and then he slammed my head onto the counter.
And that's when your tooth broke?
Right.
Now I'm going to hear your side of the story.
He didn't kick me in the behind, Your Honor. He kicked me in the leg, not just once, but like 5 to 6 times in the leg.
What did you say to him when he kicked you?
I didn't say anything. I didn't run out anyway.
You just walked out?
Right, and then...
So you didn't get any food?
Right.
So you went in there, and your purpose for going in there was to put cheese on his head. You know that was the wrong thing to do.
Yes.
Okay. Now, tell me about when you hit his head into the counter.
Before that, when he said go back to the sewer, he gave me the finger, then said go back to the sewer. Then I walked up to him and I pushed him like that.
And that's when he hurt his mouth?
Right, and then I ran out.
Why did you run out?
Because I didn't want him to attack me again.
Go ahead.
Okay. He didn't just go like that to me. He actually went like that, not like soft. He hit my head onto the...
How hard did you kick him in the butt?
Not really hard, because I was running and trying to do it.
You think that was the right thing to do?
No.
Your guardian think that was the right thing to do?
No, Your Honor, I didn't. But he was bothering him days before that, Your Honor.
I'm not saying that Pierre did the right thing. Pierre did the wrong thing. So did Anthony.
Absolutely.
Now, Anthony, had you ever broken this tooth before?
Yes, it was chipped.
And when this incident happened with Pierre, it was chipped again.
It was broken this time, and it hurts now, like my tooth is sensitive to hot and cold.
But you still have the tooth?
I have part of it.
And
this is like a temporary thing.
Temporary cap?
Yes.
Now, do you think, Anthony, that you are partially responsible for what happened that day?
Partially, a little bit.
Do you think he's partially responsible for what happened that day?
Well, Your Honor, in a way I do, but in a way I don't, because he's been bullied. I mean, he's been bullied by the kid.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Mr. Hoyt can taxi out of his driveway and taxi directly onto the runway.
Why do you think he would choose not to do that?
Because he likes to show off.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 12-year-old Anthony DiGirolamo says his classmate, 12-year-old Pierre Guillet, poured cheese on his head and pushed his face onto a counter, knocking out his tooth. Pierre says Anthony kicked him first.
Now, the objective data is that Pierre has invited your nephew
Yes.
to his home, to parties, as
And we have done the
recently as...
same, Your
listen
Honor.
to me. No. According to your nephew, it's been 4 years since he invited him to a party.
Your
That's
Honor.
according to your nephew.
Okay, that was
It's been
wrong.
4 years. But last summer, he was invited to his birthday party. And there's no question that between the two of them, each one of them believes that the other one isn't behaving right.
Right.
So all I'm saying to you is, both of these young men behaved badly.
You're right.
He had no right to go in there and put Parmesan cheese on his head
Right.
or ear. Right? He had no right to kick him in the butt. So, how much did it cost you at the dentist to fix your tooth?
It's not totally fixed yet, Your Honor. They have to wait for the nerve to come down and get a little longer.
Okay. It's probably going to cost you at least the $1,500 that you're suing for to have a permanent cap put on his tooth, and I think that he's partially responsible.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, your actions that day are going to cost your guardian, your aunt, $750. That's all you're getting from them, $750. You got to learn to keep your hands to yourself. We understand each other?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. That's all.
What is that excuse? You may step out.
When I looked at Anthony, his mouth was out the hair and he was covered with blood and he had no tooth there.
He makes fun of everyone in the school.
He started to bully me around, and I got mad at him.
I couldn't take it anymore.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hoyt versus Champ. Step forward, please.
Lumber salesman Robert Hoyt is suing his neighbor, Juanita Champ, for damage to his airplane. Robert says Juanita left a trash can in the taxiway.
Mr. Hoyt, I am so pleased that you brought that diagram. You don't happen to have a picture, do you?
I do.
I'd really like to take a look at the picture while I'm sort of recapping what I think happened in this case, or at least what you allege. You and the defendants live in a community where a whole bunch of people have airplanes. And instead of garages, there are hangars.
In addition to garages, there are hangars.
I wasn't looking to shortchange you, Miss Champ. I said there were big hangars for planes, but I'm sure you also have a car.
We do.
And it is your claim that you were taxiing your plane in an area where you are allowed to taxi your plane. It also serves as a street. And that the defendant placed her garbage can outside on your street/runway. As a result of that, you clipped the wing of your plane, causing damage. Right?
Correct.
And Miss Champ's defense is you weren't looking where you were going.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, show me what happened.
On May 21st, while taxiing out of my driveway to the neighborhood road, which acts as the taxiway, I S-turned all the way
S-turn.
down.
What's an S-turn?
It's going back in the shape of an S, back and forth. I have a tail dragger.
Why do you do that?
I have a tail dragger biplane where you cannot see over the nose of the biplane. So in order to taxi correctly, you have to do S-turns on the taxiway. And as you turn to your left, you look right. As you turn to your right, you look left.
Why did you get a plane where you can't see over the nose?
It's an aerobatic biplanes. To reduce drag, you don't have a nose wheel, so they give you a tail wheel. And also, if you're taking off, grass runways, it gives you more prop clearance. So this is.
Sorry, I asked you. Okay, so you're zigging and zagging in order to get to the runway.
Correct.
Go.
And 3/4 of the way down, Miss Champ lives, and upon taxiing, and hit her garbage can.
She's not allowed to have a garbage can on her property?
She is allowed to have a garbage can on her property, but the easement for the safe passage on the taxiway, 25 feet off center, is to have no obstructions. And an additional 10 feet beyond, there's to be nothing exceeding 2 feet in height. This garbage can is 3 feet and 2 inches, and she chose to put it alongside the taxiway. I have a videotape that also will show this, and I have the CC&Rs, which will state this.
Take the videotape for me.
Sure.
Put it in. And let me take a look at that
And there's the
regulation.
And also, Your Honor, from our Neighborhood Safety Committee, which will show that CC&R. You can see the can, which is circled with a red dot.
That looks like the can's out in the middle of the street.
Yeah, I don't. That's
Can
not on the
is
grass, sir.
never in the middle of the street.
Shh.
Oh, sorry.
Was your garbage can outside?
Yes, it was.
Was your garbage can 10 feet in from your property line?
Probably not.
Why?
Well, Every Wednesday, the garbage cans are out there. Mr. Hoyt's also has been out there all that same time.
Mr. Hoyt, do you place your garbage cans out for collection every Wednesday?
Nope. Garbage is on Thursday, and mine go out Thursday morning.
You have different people picking up garbage in your area?
We place ours out in the evening because we don't want to get up before 7 a.m. But ours was out early that day.
Was this a Wednesday or a Thursday?
This was a Wednesday morning.
It was Wednesday because we were going on vacation and we put our garbage can out a few hours before we would normally put them out.
Okay. Now, when you put your trash cans out on Thursday morning, sir, I would assume that you put them out closer than 10 feet just that one day, and everybody is aware of that. Is that right?
That one day, sure.
Yes. I knew I was going to get there. So on Thursday, everybody is aware. Watch out on Thursday morning because the garbage cans are out there. Is that right, Mr. Hoyt?
That's correct.
But this was out Wednesday morning, so you weren't expecting garbage cans to be out Wednesday morning.
No.
I got it. I'm going to get to you in a minute.
Okay.
Okay.
I got a lot to say.
Well, I'm going to get there.
Sonia says she bought the ring from her niece.
Now, if somebody says to you, where did you get that ring? A normal person would not say, I found it on the floor in my bathroom.
Okay, I understand.
Do you
what you're
understand?
saying. Yes, they fell out of the
They
pile
would
of
say, when I was going through bags of clothes, I found it. Right?
Yes.
The next normal question from somebody who knew what the ring was would say, where did you get the clothes, right?
Yes.
And what did you tell Miss Malone when she asked you where you got the clothes from?
I do believe I told her that these were some clothes from Lisa's garage sale that I had brought over.
Right. Okay. Now, what did she say to you?
She just asked me if I wanted to sell the ring.
And you said?
I said, it's ugly. I would give it to you, but I could use the money, so here.
So here what?
I sold her the ring. I gave it to her.
You sold her the ring for?
$50.
Okay, and she took out $50 and gave it to you?
Yes, in cash.
And you say, I'm an independent witness. So let me tell you where you went wrong in the first place. If I'm part of a family and I go to pick up some clothes, and in the bag of clothes I find something that is valuable or potentially valuable, if I'm a good family member, I call Lisa and say, you know, Lisa, you know what I found in that bag of clothes that I took from you? I found this piece of jewelry. I don't know if it's a good piece of jewelry. It's not, but, you know, I'm sure you didn't realize that you were throwing it out with your clothes. Here's your ring back.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right?
Yes. But I was not aware that that was her ring. I had different clothes that were coming. So I
don't. Baloney. Baloney. Even if you suspected that it might have been coming from her bag, if you suspected it might be hers, a family member says, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Especially when she said, where did it come from? Light bulb should have gone off in your head, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Sit down. Now, Miss Malone, let's get to you, madam. She told you that she believed that this bag of clothing came from the plaintiff. This is a ring that you had previously seen. So you knew the ring belonged to Lisa,
No,
right?
I didn't.
Yes, you did. Don't be a liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Don't be a liar. You knew the ring belonged to Lisa. You thought.
She told me she just found the ring. She didn't say it came specifically out of a bag.
She found the ring where? She just testified. Are you telling me that your witness is lying?
In her house.
She found the ring. What, the ring fairy brought it into her house? She told you how she got it, Miss Malone. Don't fib to me. I'll make you look like a fool. You said, where did you find it? And she said, I was cleaning out bags of clothes. What clothes? She already testified to that. So don't be a liar.
I'm not a liar.
Yes, you are. You knew this ring. You had seen this ring over the years. You knew the ring belonged to the plaintiff. You don't even deny in your answer that you knew the ring belonged to the plaintiff or that you had a strong suspicion that it belonged to the plaintiff. What you say in your answer is, I bought it for $50.
Correct.
I paid to have it fixed.
Correct.
Therefore, it's mine.
Correct.
Right. Wrong. Wrong. You knew that the ring did not belong to your witness to sell. And you knew that when you gave her $50 for the ring, that it was worth a lot more than $50. So you were not a purchaser without knowledge that this was either lost, misplaced, or perhaps stolen. Therefore, now your claim is that You paid $50 for it, which I reject because you shouldn't have paid $50 for it. You shouldn't have paid anything for it. You should have said to her, especially a family member, you better ask Lisa whether that's her ring, whether she intended to give it away. That's what you should have said first. Then when you invested money, you expect to get your money back.
Right.
You don't get it back. You did the wrong thing. If you do the wrong thing, you don't get the money back. So aside from making trouble in your family, which I'm sure you did between your husband and his sister and everybody else and getting her involved, all because you wanted an extra piece of jewelry, you did the wrong thing. When you do the wrong thing, you're not rewarded. So you don't get the ring back, and you don't get what you paid for it, and you don't get what you paid to have it fixed. She gets the ring back. And
No,
let's get to your counter.
the ring looked familiar. I asked her if Lisa had seen the ring. She told me that Lisa had offered her $100 for the ring, but she chose not to sell it to her.
Lie. Let me tell you something. She says she didn't know whose ring it was. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your witness says she didn't know whose ring it was when she sold it to you. Give her back the ring.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
your first counterclaim, Miss Malone, is that the plaintiff has been telling people that you have her ring wrongfully. Is that right?
She said that I stole the ring. I never stole the ring.
Well, you did. In effect, you did. Because she didn't know that the ring was not an abandoned piece of property. You knew. Now, Miss Malone, there isn't very much question in my mind that if your husband had told you she was coming over, you would have taken off the ring before she got there.
No, that's not true.
Oh, well, for a while she hadn't seen it. And you do wear a lot of jewelry. So my sense is that you probably, had you had noticed that she was coming over, you would have slipped it off your finger and said, I don't want to start any trouble.
That's not true. I didn't think the ring was hers, Your Honor.
I don't believe it. Don't believe it.
Okay.
I don't believe you. Circumstances suggest to me that you knew or should have known, if you wanted to open up your mind, that the ring belonged to Lisa. At least
It was
enough
a
that you would have
diamond
said to her, Lisa, is this yours? All in all, you did the wrong thing. You don't get rewarded for doing the wrong thing. Your counterclaim's dismissed. You have your ring back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't know it was her ring.
She knew this ring. She knew this ring when she seen it from Claudette.
Nobody in the family wants nothing to do with her. She's a trifling lying.
She was my friend, and she was my birth coach for 2 children.
I was not her best friend. I didn't hang out with her.
I'm just glad it's going to be over with now. Maybe, you know, the family can calm down a little bit.
I knew in my heart that I would prevail on this and would get my ring back.
She ain't gonna never be around my kids or nothing. She's out of our family.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Romero versus Clemens. Step forward, please.
Nurse Penny Romero is suing her ex-boyfriend's current wife, homemaker Connie Clemens, for selling a car belonging to her daughter.
Mrs. Romero, the defendant is your former husband's wife. Is that right?
It is his wife. He is not my ex-husband.
He is the father of your daughter.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you were never married.
Correct.
This is his wife.
Yes.
And that's your daughter?
Yes, that's my daughter.
So this is your complaint. Where's the husband? You can stand up. Your complaint alleges that in 2001, you put down a down payment for a car for your daughter.
Yes.
And it was about $500. And at some point, she went to live with her father and his wife. When was that?
In 2002.
And she took the car with her.
Yes.
At the time she moved in with her father, she was how old?
17.
The car was sold or traded in, according to them, because your daughter got a new car. Did you get a new car?
Yes, I did.
While you were living with your father?
No, I got it this December. I was living on my own.
Okay. As a matter of fact, I have a few questions for you, so you can stand next to your mother. You want the money back that you put into the car?
Yes.
Oh, so this is going to be very fast. It's not going to be long. It's not very complicated. When you moved out of your mother's house, you took the car with you?
She wouldn't let me take it when I moved out, but then I called her and I said, this is the car I have. It's a pile of crap. I need that car back. And she said, okay, that's fine. She told me where it was, and Connie and my dad said we needed to pay off the money that was owed on it still. So they went in and paid off what was owed. They traded in my car, the car that I was driving at the time.
Just 1 second. So your mother first said that you couldn't have the car. She wouldn't let you take it with you. Is that right? Even though it had been a gift?
Yes.
Then you called and asked her whether or not you could please have it, and she said, well, I left it at somebody's garage or somebody's lot or whatever. And your father and his wife went in and paid off the rest of what was owed on the car.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
How much was that?
Oh, I don't know what they paid
How much
in
was
cash.
that?
We traded her old car for it that we bought her because her mom wouldn't let her use that car.
So when you moved in with your father, they bought you a used car to get around in, but it wasn't a good one. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
And then they traded that one in and paid off the one that your mother had bought for you.
Yes.
Now you had the use of a better car.
Yes.
Excuse me,
And
Your Honor.
don't speak. Now, when you left your father's house, did you take the car with you?
Yeah.
And what happened to the car?
The heater broke in it, and it was winter, and the hood didn't latch, and the windows didn't seal, and the roof was falling off, and so I needed to get a new car.
And did you tell that to your father?
Yeah.
And what did you do? Did you trade it in?
No, I wasn't planning on doing anything with that car. That I was just going to buy this new car, and so I just left the car at their house.
And what did you do with the car?
We put it up for sale.
Okay. And how much did you sell it for?
$250.
Tell me your first name.
Susie.
Susie, you left the old car at their house.
Yeah.
What did you believe they were going to do with the car?
I didn't know anything. We were deciding if we were going to try and sell it and split the money. There was never anything decided.
Now, when they told you that they sold the car, had you known that they were...
I didn't know until right now that the car was even sold.
Okay, so the car is sold. Who did you sell the car to?
Just a family up in Grand Ron.
And what year car was this?
An 86.
So they got $250. Do you want the $250 back? It was your car.
It's not really important to me.
Right. I assumed not. You lived there and they sort of bought you one, traded in one to get the other one. Now, my question, Ms. Romero, what makes you think you're entitled to $1,100 from these people?
Because when we originally bought the car, I went with Susie, we picked it out, I put the down payment on it, I made payments on it until she got to work. The agreement was we tried to get her a new car financed, we were going to sell the old car and split it, or either we were going to fix it for my 16-year-old son to drive.
You're not entitled to your money back. You made your daughter a gift. She could do whatever she wanted with the car. There's no strings attached to a gift. You bought your daughter a car. You bought it for her in 2001. That's 3 years ago. She's been through 2 cars since. I mean, get a life. Your case is dismissed.
I have a life. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I had a feeling it would go like this because it was a gift for...
I think the ruling was correct.
I don't care either way. I have a car, and that's all that I was looking for, was having a car that ran.
There's just always something that she brings us to court back and forth on.
This is how it's been forever.
We've been in a custody battle for over 3 years with 2 children.
My parents are usually doing something. I mean, we're usually in court over something.
Yeah, it's ongoing, and I wish it would stop.
This is it. This is it. We're done now.
It's fine. We're just going to keep on going.
You have a 1.5-year-old granddaughter.
Only one thing can come between this grandmother and her granddaughter.
Money. Who does that child live with?
I have sole custody.
When was the last time your daughter sent any money for the support of his child?
That's not an issue.
It's an issue, madam, if you're using your brains.
Judge Judy.
The soon-to-be ex-son-in-law has sole custody.
And he still didn't pay after that.
Well, it seems, Ms. Simpkins, that based upon this agreement that the two of you signed, this wasn't somebody who didn't pay child support. He paid child support, and when he was going into the military and there was going to be a hiatus, the two of you made an arrangement, whereas his tax returns were going to be split. You were going to get so much money, and he was going to get so much money on the returns. It's not as if he was a deadbeat.
No,
so I find that your excuse that it was his fault that you filed for bankruptcy somewhat disingenuous.
Well, that was for a previous. I mean, after he went in and that money was applied, there was still no child support until I hunted him down.
You don't have to hunt him down. What you have to do is you have to apply for your allotment. That's what you do.
He had told me that he was going to Fort Bragg.
Yes.
He didn't go to Fort Bragg.
Well, who do you think that he has the ability to say, I want to go to Fort Bragg?
Well, no, but they told me that's where he told me that's where he was going to be
Maybe
stationed
that's where they told him he was going. You think he was trying to fool you?
Yes.
You think he was trying to fool you? Not enough.
When I went away for basic training, Your Honor, I was going to Fort Jackson, and that's where I told her it was. And they found I was colorblind. I couldn't go.
Listen to me very carefully, madam. You may have filed for bankruptcy, and between you and the creditor who you owed money to on the car, the bankruptcy court relieved you of that obligation. However, you have a judgment of divorce.
Right.
You agreed to accept sole responsibility for the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Your judgment of divorce provides that if you don't do that, you are to indemnify him. Make him whole. Because it's your car. Where's the car, by the way?
If we turned it in. I turned it into the
When did you turn it in?
Oh, gosh. I want to say September of that year.
September of what year?
2000.
And when did you file for bankruptcy?
Not until 2001.
So if you turned it in, you turned it in at the exact same time as you were divorced. And then all you wanted to do was clean your slate. So you turned the car in and you obligated him at the moment that you got a divorce.
No.
Yeah, you did. Oh, sure you did. That was slick. Oh, that was slick.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You assumed the responsibility yourself. You're a big girl. You're big enough to make... That's baloney.
That is not.
That's baloney.
And later today,
I don't care whether they're divorced or not. If she were the custodial parent and he came to me and said, well, we're not divorced yet, so I'm not paying for anything, I would wipe up the floor with him.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jason Bainbridge says ex-wife Jennifer Simpkins filed bankruptcy on a car in his name. Jason says the creditor is making him responsible for payments.
Why didn't you consent to him having both cars in the judgment of divorce?
Because the divorce was bad and messy, and it was just...
Why didn't you say, here, you take both cars? Maybe you can sell them, maybe you won't get stuck with it. Instead, he's singing along for a year thinking you've got the car,
No,
you're making payments.
No, he knew.
You're making payments on the car.
Right.
You're making payments on the car. He's making payments on the other car, I assume.
No,
'Cause there
that
were
car,
two
he
cars.
turned that car in for repossession as well, so he wasn't making payments on that
That's not true, Your Honor. My father actually paid it off.
after it was repossessed.
So somebody paid it off, so somebody got it off his credit. Well, that's what your parents should have done with your obligation.
No, it's not their job.
It's not his job. You assume the responsibility yourself. You're a big girl.
He
You're
wasn't
big enough to
paying
make...
child support.
That's baloney.
That is not.
That's baloney.
No, ma'am.
How much did you owe on the car?
According to them, it's $4,353.10.
Let me see it. And that will clear your credit?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you called them with regard to settling this account?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, and what do they say it will take to settle it?
Just the $4,350, what's stated on that piece of paper.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,353.10. Madam, you have to be a grown-up. You obligate yourself to do something, you have to do it. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was World War III. We didn't get along very well, but she needed to take care of her the obligations.
He left a lot of times, and I changed the locks, and that was it.
This is only one of many things that she maliciously did to me.
There was other women involved.
I can't buy a house. I can't get a car. I got to get judgment on my credit, so now I got to get an attorney to get that off my credit.
For our children, he doesn't bother with them now, so I don't think he'll ever be a major part of their life.
It's been an everyday occurrence as far as her trying to get her payment on the vehicle. I'm glad it's finally over with and justice is perfect.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Tarter versus Hughes. Step forward, please.
Bus driver Catherine Tarter is suing her estranged son-in-law, 25-year-old salesman Donald Hughes, for the cost of a trailer. Donald says Catherine is angry about his pending divorce from her daughter.
Ms. Tarter, the defendant is your soon-to-be ex-son-in-law. And
Yes.
according to your complaint, he owes you some money for a trailer. Is that right?
Yes.
The defendant says he's paid you a substantial amount of money for the trailer, doesn't owe you any more. You have the motorhome that went with the trailer. He doesn't have it in his possession. It's not on his property. I assume this is your daughter?
Yes.
How long have you been married?
4 years, Your Honor.
You have children?
Yes, I do.
How many children?
I have a year-and-a-half-year-old daughter, and then I had 2 sons that came with the marriage that are still dear to me.
And who does that child live with?
I have sole custody.
Is that after a hearing, after a trial?
Yes.
Does their mother have visitation with the children?
No, she does. She has 2 hours supervised visits a week.
Does she exercise the visitation?
Sometimes.
Prior to the divorce, did you have a reasonable relationship with Mr. and Mrs. Tarter?
Yes, I did.
Is that right?
Yes.
How many children do you have?
I have 2 girls.
How many grandchildren do you have?
3.
How much money was this trailer?
It was $4,000.
Just for the trailer?
Just for the trailer, and the motorhome was $4,000, so they agreed upon $8,000.
And how much do you say it was, sir?
It was $4,000 altogether for both of them.
Is there a writing with regard to that?
We had a verbal agreement.
Is there a writing with regard to that, is my question.
No.
How much have you paid them for the trailer?
I paid them $1,950 for the trailer and the motorhome together.
But you only have the
I only have the trailer.
trailer. Did Mr. Hughes pay you $1,950?
No, ma'am.
How much did he pay you?
The motorhome broke down.
I'm not talking about the motorhome.
Okay, well,
He doesn't have the motorhome.
He paid us, I know, they returned it, so therefore all the payments that were paid individually towards the motorhome and the trailer were forfeited. And they were always...
Forfeited by whom?
By us. It was written down where when he paid us money, that $75 would go towards the motorhome and $75 would go towards the trailer. When one was given back in case they decided they couldn't afford it, or that it broke down, which the motorhome did, and they couldn't afford to fix it, they gave it back to us. So therefore, the motorhome payments, which were $425, was forfeited, and then $425 was credited towards the utility trailer.
All I'm asking you is that in writing someplace?
I typed up a legal contract because
Did
at first
he sign it?
He refused to sign it.
The answer is you do not. Shh. You do not have that in writing. Is that correct?
My daughter signed it, and
I don't care what your daughter signed, madam. I mean, I happen to think that you're missing a few screws, and I'm going to tell you why. You have a 1.5-year-old granddaughter. Your soon-to-be ex-son-in-law has sole custody, which suggests to me that if you want to maintain a relationship, and it seems to me you enjoyed a reasonable relationship with him before, if you want to enjoy a reasonable relationship with your granddaughter, you should keep him on your good side and not sue him, because it would appear to me that your daughter had to be a pretty deficient person in order to end up at the end of a custody dispute with 2 hours a week supervised visitation. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Why would a normal person who has 3 grandchildren risk the wrath of their custodial parent over nonsense? Over nonsense. He's paid you money. And how much child support is your daughter paying for her daughter?
She's not, and they're not divorced yet.
I don't care whether they're divorced or not. If she were the custodial parent and taking care of the child, and he came to me and said, in the course of a legal dispute, and I said to him, how much money are you paying for child support? And he said, well, we're not divorced yet, so I'm not paying for anything. I would wipe up the floor with him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Tarter says her estranged son-in-law, Donald Hughes, owes for the cost of a trailer. Donald says his soon-to-be ex-wife is a drug addict.
Now, I asked you a simple question. The simple question was, how much money was paid to you by him for either the trailer and or the motorhome?
$425 for the trailer and $425 for the motorhome.
Are you passive-aggressive? How much money was paid in total for both things? Just don't give me $425 for each. How much money do you say was paid in total?
$850.
Okay. And you say $1,950.
Yes, I do.
Could you prove that to me?
No, I can't. I have no receipts due to my house being taken from my wife, and then when I got my house back, I had no paperwork, no receipts, no pink slips.
They say $850. What makes you think it was $1,950?
Because I paid on time, sometimes a couple days late, but every month was paid since October of 2002 until December of 2003.
So far, is that right?
No, Your Honor, I have a payment schedule here showing.
See.
They were to pay $26 for insurance.
I'm not talking about insurance. I'm talking about how much money he actually paid to you. Okay. $1,450 is, by your calculations, what he paid to you. Not $850, $1,450, based upon this.
Your Honor, those payments were divided up between the motorhome and the trailer equally.
I just told you, he doesn't have the motorhome. You do.
No, we sold it since then.
Well, that's not my problem. That's not his problem.
Well, I asked him to return the motorhome when he refused the one payment and took it back.
Miss Tarter, you're not following me. If you think they owe you anything for the motorhome, get it from your daughter. Do I make myself clear? You are a very foolish lady. A very foolish lady. If I were in your position, I would not alienate the father, the custodial parent of my granddaughter. I would not alienate him. And for a very stupid reason, money. You
Well,
did.
this has been going on for over a year.
No, that's not true. Because December of 2003, which is not over a year, he made a payment to you of $500. That's according to your own record.
But we sold it to him on March '03, is when the trailer and the motorhome was sold to them.
Did you hear what I said to you? It's not been going on for over a year. He made a payment to you of $500 in December of 2003.
Yes, he caught it.
When was the last time your daughter sent any money for the support of his child?
March. That's not an issue. They're not divorced
It's
yet.
an issue, madam, if you're using your brains.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
March of 2003, was she employed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where was she employed?
At Child Time.
Until when?
October of 2003.
And what did she do with her money?
I thought she was paying bills, but she wasn't. She was using it on drugs.
Was she placed in a rehab?
I placed her in a rehab in January.
Did she stay?
She stayed for 60 days, Your Honor. And then she was supposed to go to a halfway house, and she ended up getting kicked out of there for doing it again, drinking.
Where are her other two children?
One lives with his father, and the other one lived with the grandparents.
Ms. Tarter, I find that the defendant has paid you $1,450 for a trailer. I find that your agreement was $4,000 for the trailer and the motorhome, not $8,000. Whatever deficiency there is, I suggest you get it from your daughter. Your case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused and they step out.
I don't want my daughter to not see her mom or her grandparents or anything, but I see where the daughter gets it from.
He's refused me custody of my daughter. He's refused me parental rights to my daughter, visitation to my daughter, and everything else. I've done everything that the courts have asked me to do.
She kidnapped my daughter from when we were getting Christmas pictures. She ran me over with a car.
I was having meth at the time.
Her drug use, it just kind of tore the whole family apart.
I told him to bring the trailer back or I would report it stolen. He says, well, you might as well report it stolen and you can kiss your granddaughter goodbye because you're never going to see her again.
Hopefully it'll work out. I really do, because it's not about me, her, or the grandparents. It's actually about the children.
They were a loving couple until...
I did start seeing someone else.
Did he ever stay over in the apartment?
He did.
So he moved out.
She broke his heart. But did he break the law?
She needed help. I helped her. I mean, I loved her. That's why.
Judge Judy.
You can't expect him to tolerate living in a situation where you are bringing another young man into the home.
All rise. Now, this is case number 66 on the calendar in the matter of Raw versus Coke. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. Roll, you and the defendant were boyfriend and girlfriend, and you lived together. It is your claim that he owes you some money. You say he owes you some money from an old loan a couple of years ago, $940. You say he owes you for rent money because he moved out of an apartment that you shared together.
It was actually not from rent. It was from breaking the lease.
Money for breaking the lease.
Correct.
And for a washer and dryer that you say he took when he left.
Correct.
Mr. Koch says that he never borrowed any money from you 2 years ago, that you were in a live-in relationship, you exchanged money back and forth. He has no idea what you're talking about with regard to a specific loan.
I have been...
That you told him to leave the apartment because you were not getting along, and indicated to him that you were going to get a new roommate, so he doesn't owe you for rent, and that the washer and dryer was part of a lease enhancement when you moved into an apartment several years ago.
Yes,
you didn't pay anything for it, so that he decided to take it, and it's his just as much as it is yours. That's his defense. So let's start with when you moved into this apartment together and when you signed the lease.
Well, the apartment that we moved in, when we got the washer and dryer...
I didn't ask you about the washer and dryer yet.
Okay. With the lease breaking fees, we moved in June of '03.
Okay.
And I have the lease
and
right
when
here.
Did you... Ms. Rawl,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to try not to speak over me, and I want you to try to listen to my questions and answer my questions.
Okay.
That way we're going to get along.
Okay.
When did he move out?
He moved out January 4th of this year.
Under what circumstances did he move out?
It was a mutual agreement. I had said when we broke up in September, I'm not going to make you leave, but I'm not going to make you stay. In December, I did start seeing someone else, and he said, I can't stay here anymore. And I said, if that's your decision. I was trying to find a roommate. I could not find anybody to live with me.
Just a second. So in December, you started to see someone else. Just give me the first name of this person.
It's Justin.
Justin. And when you started to see Justin, would Justin come to pick you up at the apartment?
Never when Jeremy was there.
I didn't ask you that question.
Yes, he did.
I didn't ask. Just answer my question. Did he come to pick you up in the apartment?
Yes.
Okay. Did he ever stay over in the apartment?
Yes, he did.
So he said to you, I can't be here under these circumstances, and you said to him, I will try to get a new roommate.
Yes, it was a mutual thing when he left. But I was
Did
trying to
Did
get
you understand what I just said to you?
Yes, I was trying to get a roommate.
Good. Were you able to get a roommate?
No, I was not.
What about him?
He is in school and does not have the extra money to pay for half a rent. And the other friend that I was trying to get...
Just a second. After he moved out, be very, very careful how you answer this question.
Okay.
How long did you remain in the apartment?
10 days.
Until what date?
January 14th.
Where did you go on January 14th?
I moved in with my mother.
From January 4th till January 14th, how many nights did Justin stay in the apartment?
I want to say many, but I'm not positive exactly.
And on the 14th, how come you moved back to your mother's?
Because I could not find a roommate and I could not afford the apartment on my own.
So far, is that pretty much, did I get the information
Yes, ma'am.
right on that score?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's get to the money loaned. Tell me about the loan that you made to Mr. Koch.
There was a loan back in December of 2003 that he asked for. We were getting...
December of 2003?
I'm sorry, 2002. It was 2002. And we were getting ready to go on vacation, and he said, I don't want my truck to be repoed. I have 2 bank statements showing I had withdrawn some money. He said that's not enough. I then went to my savings account at the ATM and withdrew more money, and it was a total of $850.
Do you remember that, Mr. Koch?
No, ma'am. At least not like that.
He went with me.
Shh. How do you remember it?
She did give me some money. Like, we lived together for a while. We were trying to get enough money together to go to Florida to see her mother for Christmas. And insurance needed to be paid, and we needed stuff to get the rental car. And
this was in December of 2002?
Correct.
Did you, in fact, go to visit her mother in Florida in December of 2002?
Yes, we did. That's what that money was used for.
Both of you?
Correct.
How did you get there?
We had a rental car to drive down, and we flew back home.
I have 2 Delta tickets on my Capital One. I bought the tickets to pay for the trip.
Who paid for the rental car?
I also paid for the rental car.
Show me.
That was part of the money that I gave him that day.
Just a second. You paid for the airline tickets to go and see your mother.
Yes, I did.
And the money for the rental car was money that you now want back from him. Is that what you're telling me? Just answer my question, Miss Rawle. The money for the rental car is now money that you want back from him.
I gave him $850. It was to pay for his truck payments so that his truck did not get repoed, and it was also a little bit for the rental car because being under 25, I could not purchase the rental car. I could not do the renting.
How much of the money that you gave him, now you're telling me it was $850, right?
It was
not $940 that you originally indicated. How much of the $850 was for the rental car?
It was a little under $100.
How do you know that?
I don't have any documentation. He took care of all of that. I have statements.
Now let's talk about the washer and dryer. What?
Excuse me, the $90 that on top of the $840 to make $850 to make $940 was for $90 she lent him at Christmas time for his son.
We went to a game store and he said, I don't have the money for this. Will you lend me the money for this until after Christmas when I can pay you back? Being a child's Christmas, I said, yes, I will do this for you.
Oh, you know something? I don't believe you.
Okay.
I don't believe that that's the way a woman responds to the man that she's living with Christmas time. Being that you don't have the money, I will lend you the $90 so that you can buy your child a Christmas present. Just doesn't have a ring of truth. Listen to me. It just doesn't have a ring of truth to it. 2 years ago.
We had to buy Christmas twice.
Listen to me. It doesn't have a ring of... That conversation doesn't have a ring of truth to it, Miss Rawle.
Okay, that's what happened.
Okay.
All I can do
Fine.
is tell you what happened.
Okay. Who are you?
I'm Sandy's mom.
You weren't there.
I kind of was. She was trying to explain.
No, you weren't there. Were you?
Yes, I was.
You were there when she gave him $90? Step up. Tell me where you were when she gave him $90 Christmas time.
I was in Columbus at the time because she had to pay. They had to get Christmas twice because they were broken into.
Listen to me. Were you there when
Not
she gave
physically.
him $90?
Not physically in front of him.
Good. Now you can sit down.
Thank you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It was agreed that I was going to take the washer and dryer.
No, it was not.
Shh. Listen, Miss Roll.
And I asked...
Miss Roll, you have to grow up. You really have to grow up.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Rawls says ex-boyfriend Jeremy Koch owes for breaking a lease. Jeremy says Sandra was dating another man.
Now tell me about the washer-dryer.
We moved into an apartment, and we received a free washer and dryer. When I moved to Florida, he kept them in the apartment and then moved down to Florida and brought them with him. When he moved back to Ohio in January, I said, you owe me money from, money that I lent you, the $850 that I lent you for your truck. He said, I don't have it for you. Why should I give it to you? You lent that to me, that's your fault. And I said, well, then leave me the washer and dryer. And he said, I don't want you to be here when I pack up the U-Haul. When I came back, the washer and dryer were gone. And I have this showing mine and his name on it, showing that we received a free washer and dryer. And I believe they are half mine.
Which half do you want?
Just something for it.
No. Which half do you want? The washer or the dryer?
It doesn't matter.
I come to you now.
Yes, ma'am.
Mostly I want you to tell me about the washer and dryer. What makes you think that you are entitled to the washer and dryer?
It was agreed that I was going to take the washer and dryer.
No, it was not.
Shh, don't speak. You see how quiet he was when you were talking? Don't speak. Tell me how it was agreed, Mr. Koch.
The apartment we were living in Florida had a washer and dryer that was part of the unit. So the washer and dryer that we acquired together in the apartment prior to were sitting in the spare room. Me knowing that I was going to need them down the road since the apartment I was going to move into doesn't come with a washer and dryer like hers does. She already had it. She didn't need them.
So it already had a washer dryer?
Correct.
Go ahead.
And so when I left, I didn't just sneak those out. As a matter of fact, her mother was there when I loaded them up. And
why do you think, Mr. Koch, that she sued you?
honestly, she's desperate for money. They're hurting.
Why?
Well, to my understanding, her mother has lost her job, and money's tight. So she's coming at me.
When you were living together for the 2 years that you lived together, how did you pay your bills, Mr. Koch? Did you have a joint account ever?
No, we did not.
So how was the rent paid, for instance?
My checks, through my checking account.
And she would give you money?
Correct. And sometimes she would write a check and I would give her money.
So it was sort of a fluid thing, but you maintained separate accounts?
Right. Okay. But most of the time, especially in Florida, I paid majority of the rent.
How come?
Well, I made a little bit more money.
What kind of work were you doing?
I'm a DJ, and I was doing side jobs.
Okay, so there was never any fixed amount that somebody would pay?
Not on a steady basis. I mean, it was agreed when we moved in we'd split it 50-50, but it hardly ever worked out that way. If she
Hardly ever does.
Right. If she needed help, I helped her. If I needed help, she helped me. That's
okay.
Part of, I mean, I loved her. That's why.
Okay. Go ahead.
Your Honor, I have an electric bill that was from the last month that he was in the apartment in Ohio. He never paid it.
When was that?
That was he moved out May 20th.
May 20th, what year?
Of last year.
And then you moved back together again in another apartment?
Correct.
Listen, Miss Rawls.
And I asked...
Miss Rawls, you have to grow up. You really have to grow up. You cannot expect this young man, after having been in a relationship with you for 2 years, to tolerate living in a situation where you are bringing another young man into the home as your boyfriend.
Your Honor,
I'm speaking. Put it down. Staying over in the apartment, whether he's there or not. I would say the same thing if you had decided to separate and said, okay, we're going to live out the terms of this lease. If you find somebody else, if I find somebody else, we won't bring them into the apartment. We won't have them staying over here. We won't do anything to exacerbate the situation. And if he brought women into the apartment and stuck that in your face, I would say, you don't have to tolerate that and you can move. I'm saying the same thing to you. You can't do that and then expect him to tolerate it and feel like a moron and expect him to pay you for breaking the lease. So you get zero money for breaking the lease. Now let's get to this loan baloney. 2 years ago, you say you gave him, first in your sworn statement, $900 and some odd. Then you tell me it was a little less. There's no writing of it. You just took money out of the account. He tells me that part of that was for a trip to go and visit your mother Christmas time in Florida. And question, you say, well, yeah, that's true. Part of it went to pay for a rental car. Part of it went to pay for his truck. And there was an exchange of money when you were living together. I believe him when he says sometimes he made a little more, sometimes maybe you contributed a little bit more. That's what happens when people live together. And if it doesn't work out, you don't come into court like a crybaby and complain. As far as the washer and dryer, put your hand down. As far as the washer and dryer is concerned, sir, what do you want her to have, the washer or the dryer?
I'll take the washer.
Good. You may have the dryer. You have to make arrangements to pick it up. 5 days from today, the dryer is to be ready between 12 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If you are not there between 12 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, consider the dryer forfeited. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. That's the end. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
To make friends, go, please make friends, find a girl, please move on.
I'm still in pain. I mean, I think about her constantly. I was going to spend the rest of my life with this woman, and now I'm here doing this.
And now the next case.
All party in the matter of Staves versus Lee. Step forward, please.
24-year-old music manager Shamika Staves is suing recording artist Aqua Lee for breach of contract and studio costs. Aqua says her contract is with Shamika's husband.
Miss Staves, your husband signed Miss Lee to a contract, according to the complaint that I read, and that contract was for her to sing for his new record label, and she was his first talent, and also to act as manager. And then he was shipped out to Iraq.
Yes,
he
ma'am.
was in the reserves. I assume he was in the reserves.
No, he was active duty all along.
And according to you, you spent a lot of money to do things, get orchestrations, et cetera, for her, and she refused to cooperate with you. And Miss Lee says she didn't sign on with you. She signed on with your husband. When did you sign this contract?
February the 7th.
May I see it, please? So is what you're telling me that your husband was in active duty in February of 2004, is that right?
That's correct.
So he was doing this sort of on the side?
That's correct. And as far as me just taking over, Your Honor?
Just 1 second. Okay, well, you cannot enforce the management agreement because that was not a contract that you entered into.
My husband left me power of attorney.
I don't care whether he left you power of attorney. I don't care what he left you. That was a personal contract entered into between the two of them. Just as Miss Staves, she couldn't get somebody, this nice lady sitting over here in the audience, right here, and say, well, I'm going to substitute her as a singer for my management contract.
Okay, I
right?
understand.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
It's a personal relationship. All right, so tell me, what terms did she not perform?
Well, she agreed to allow me to conduct the business for her.
How did
in my
you do
husband's
that?
absence. They did that over the phone. My
Who's
husband
they?
called her, my husband and Aqua. They communicated with each other.
That's hearsay.
Well, then, Aqua...
That's hearsay. You understand that that's hearsay?
Yes, I understand
You can't
that.
tell me what your husband and she discussed over the phone.
Well, then, they gave the phone. I've also had conversations with Aqua prior to my husband leaving that it was acceptable to her that I would step in his place. In fact, when Aqua got out of school, she was going to come stay in my house for the summer so that I would be able to continue to conduct business and make appointments for her.
Ms. Daves, what did you do? What money did you spend?
Total, $2,000.
I know. For what?
Production, advertising, travel, studio time.
Okay, when did you start to have difficulty with her?
After we had a situation to where she was supposed to sing for a recording artist over the phone. She didn't get to sing over the phone to him, and I was rude to Aqua. We had some personal differences, and ever since then, she stopped calling me.
Okay, well, you know, is that, so far that's correct? She was rude to you? You stopped cooperating?
She got an attitude with me, and it hurt my feelings, and I felt like I didn't want to work with her because of that.
All right, I don't have to take any more time with this case because I've already explained to you that the management agreement is something that you cannot take over, even if you have your husband's power of attorney.
But since
your
as
recording,
a record company...
listen to me, your recording contract specifically provides that any dispute pursuant to this contract, you've read the contract?
Yes, ma'am.
What does it say?
That it needs to be discussed in arbitration.
That is correct. You cannot take it to court. In the event of a dispute between the company and the artist, such disputes shall, not may, but shall, which means you must, shall be settled by binding arbitration in the city of New York. Did you, in fact, take this case to the American Arbitration Association?
In New York?
Anywhere.
I didn't go to arbitration. I filed a claim in Texas.
Well, what did they tell you when you filed the claim in Texas?
It's still pending.
Well, they're going. You know what they're going to tell you? I'll give you a brief course in contracts. If you're seeking to enforce the terms of a contract, you can enforce some and not others, right?
Right.
Your contract provides that your first step that you must take is to go before the American Arbitration Association in New York City. Do I make myself clear?
Yes.
Good. Goodbye.
All you are excused. You may step out.
Normally, two adults should be able to get past something like that.
The way she got an attitude with me really hurt my feelings, and I just didn't feel comfortable working with her anymore.
She wants to base her uncooperation because I was rude. Well, then she's going to have a lot of surprises in the entertainment industry.
I mean, people get attitudes with me all the time, but she really hurt my feelings.
He totaled her car.
Don't you think you're responsible for paying?
No, ma'am.
Now he's totally avoiding the bill.
He didn't sign any kind of contract saying that I was going to pay if I crashed the car.
You're going to break it down, right?
What makes you think you have to sign a contract to
That's what I
cops?
believe.
Do you believe that the earth is flat or round?
Judge Judy.
I concede.
Versus Carlson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Kajowski, you sublet your apartment to the defendant, and you claim that she moved out, she owes rent, and she damaged the apartment. You want her to be responsible. Ms. Carlson said she was just a few days late in paying her rent in March, and you evicted her. You told her she had to get out. You locked her out, and she is counterclaiming for all kinds of things due to this wrongful eviction. Okay, were you friends before this sublet?
Yes.
How long was your lease?
My lease started March 27, 2003, and it ended April 30th of 2004.
And when did you sublet the apartment to Ms. Carlson?
October 1st of 2003.
And did you sign a written document with her of sublet?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see it?
Notarized.
So I gather what you wanted, Ms. Carlson, was once this sublet was over, because this agreement is a lease.
Yeah.
And it is a lease for you to live there until the end of her lease.
Yes.
Unless, of course, you could get the lease put in your name, which is, I assume, what you wanted.
Yeah.
So that you would be the primary tenant.
Yes, of course.
That never happened.
No.
Well, you were late in your rent in March. What was the rent?
$520.
Why were you late?
I had to work, so I didn't pay rent. I was like a couple days late. I went to the office. I told them.
No. I don't know what that means. I mean, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Do your parents buy this baloney when you ask a question, you get double talk? I said, why didn't you pay rent? And you said, because I have to work.
I didn't. I was late.
And so there was no reason. Okay. How late were you? Couple of days. Couple of days is 2. Are we talking about March 2nd?
Rent was due from the 1st to the 5th. I went up to the office around the 13th.
Okay. So that you weren't a couple of days late, you were 2 weeks late in the rent. It's due on the 1st. You have a grace period until the 5th, but you didn't bother to show up until the 13th. Why?
I was working.
Everybody works.
I was doing doubles. It was a month time that employees had to work double shifts.
Sounds to me if you're working double shifts, you're making twice as much money.
Yeah, but we worked like to all hours of the night. I would come home at like 5 in the morning, and I would have to leave at 9 to get to work by like 10:30.
All you have to do is put your check in an envelope, my dear. So you're working double shifts means you're making a lot of money. You should have had money to pay your rent. $500, there's no excuse.
I understand that.
Okay, oh, fine. So that you breached your lease.
Yeah.
And you got a call, I gather, and as a result of that call, you changed the locks on the apartment. When did you change the locks on the apartment?
I got a call around the 11th. And I tried calling Tricia several times. I left messages. I said, I want to know what's going on. Do you need me to help you? She never returned my phone call, never paid the rent. So then I went in and I changed the locks and I left her a message. I said, look, I changed the locks. Either please go pay the rent with a late fee or, you know, get a U-Haul and move out. I did give her about 3 days. Okay. That was my last resort.
Fine. So you want her to pay the rent that she owes for March, $520, and the rent that she owes for April.
And a late fee of $37.65 or something.
Okay. Now, you also wanted to pay for some damage. What kind of damage?
Well, I had a pet when I lived there. I paid a deposit, and he did cause some damage. I do have a bill here of what I paid out of my pocket. I don't expect the whole deposit back, but she did get a dog without my permission, a puppy.
Then let's not play. Okay.
Well, you know, the damage is people vandalized the door. They stuck condoms all over the door, and they sprayed it with a fire extinguisher. She had a little ashtray outside the door. Plus, when she left, there were cigarette burns in the carpet, and I had to clean the entire apartment. And out of the $200, they charged me $140.
Okay, not a big deal.
Yeah.
Not the 2 months' rent that you want, which is $1,040. Okay, so now you have a counterclaim. I'll hear you.
Can I speak on what she's referring to of damages and stuff?
If you want to. I'm not really seriously
I was dog
considering
sitting. The dog stayed in a crate, didn't go out whatsoever, took it to doggy daycare so that I knew it would be in safe hands when I was at work, so it didn't do as much as damages than she expected.
She's not talking about a lot of money.
Okay, I understand that, but the condoms and the fire extinguisher blown in the door were under resort of her friends. She had an ex-boyfriend would come over late night, they would knock on the door, came in one time, woke me up because he's...
I'm not considering damages to the door. I'm not, quite frankly, interested in condoms on the door and writing on the door. I'm not interested. We're talking about $100. She's going to deal with it. She wants $1,040 for the months of March and April, and you want her to pay you $700, $800 because she wrongfully evicted you. So let me hear your case.
Countersuing for lost wages.
What lost
wages of when she made me move out. I had received a call at work. I had the time cards. I have a statement. Everything that day, she said, you have to leave. I went up to the office on the 13th to tell them that I'm moving out. I'm willing to pay rent and stuff. They called her to let her know. She freaked out, changed locks on me, called me at my work on my cell phone, told me that you better get your crap out. You will have 15 minutes and police supervision. So I freaked out. I have to go get my stuff. This is the stuff I've been earning since I was 17. So I'm not going to let it be gone. I'm not going to let it disappear.
I absolutely agree with you.
Your Honor. Shh. Sorry. So, and that's lost wages, punitive damages, and emotional distress. I've known this girl forever. Known her for a long time. She put me through a lot of stuff. I'm a great friend, okay? I will be there for you any time of the week, any day of the month, whatever. She would call me certain occasions and just stress me out, freak me out.
Shh, listen to me. I'm not your therapist.
Oh, I understand that.
I'm not your therapist. I want to know what your counterclaim is for. You can't tell me it's for emotional distress because I'm a better friend than she is. We don't maintain a whole judicial system to hear that kind of nonsense.
I understand.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I had to pay people to let me live in their house because I was living on the streets.
Where does your family live?
Probably about a half an hour to an hour away.
Don't they like you?
And later today...
I want to see what a good pupil you have become over the last 20 years that we've known each other. So ask him a question.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nikki Gajowski says former tenant Patricia Carlson owes for rent and damage to her apartment. Patricia says Nikki kicked her out, so she's not paying.
So tell me what you want.
I want money back from moving abruptly, going to get a U-Haul to move my stuff. I had to pay some people to move. I had to pay people to let me live in their house because I was living on the streets. You know, I didn't know where to go.
Where does your family live?
Probably about a half an hour to an hour away.
Don't they like you?
We get along once in a while.
So temporarily, instead of living in the street, why couldn't you go and live with your family?
Because my car, it's not that mobile. I have to go back to work, and I don't want to go back to work an
So
hour
are
and
you
hour
living
and a
at the
half.
street right near your job?
Do what now?
Were you living in the street right near your job?
No.
You picked another street.
No, I had to inconvenience another friend to let me move in.
You said you were living in the street.
So basically, I could have been living on the street.
No, that's not what you said. You said I was living on the street. I just wanted to know which street you were living on, or whether I was getting high theater here. Listen, you did the wrong thing. You sublet an apartment and you blew off your rent. And she tried to call you a couple of times and you didn't respond to her call because you were very busy working 2 shifts and you didn't have time to take a check, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and put it in the mailbox. Wrong. Grow up. Be a big girl. You signed a lease. Your lease was to pay the rent at the appropriate time. You didn't do that. She may have been a little overzealous when she said, listen, you got to get your stuff out of there in 15 minutes, if that's in fact what she said. Bottom line is, she wasn't going to support you while you were paying rent. That's unreasonable. Pay the money you owe it, $1,040. Judgment for the plaintiff, your counterclaims dismissed.
Pardon, excuse me, step out.
She became vain. I don't know what she's talking about being vain. Her just being totally into herself. You know, I'm not all about that stuff. Don't care about other people other than her. This is a girl that needs to grow up, and I can do that. Get a life. I don't know, I'm not going to be into that drama anymore, and quit living the trashy life that she's living. Vain as hell.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lamb versus Cobbs. Step forward, please.
19-year-old student Karen Lamb is suing her boyfriend's ex-roommate, 18-year-old electrical apprentice James Cobbs III, for totaling her car. James is countersuing for defamation of character.
Miss Lamb, the defendant borrowed your car, had an accident. You want him to pay the deductible that cost you to have the car fixed. That was $1,000. And Mr. Cobbs, while he does not specifically address the accident, he is counterclaiming because he said when he got to the police station, you were there and you were bad-mouthing him to his boss. So he is counterclaiming for slander and defamation of his otherwise perfect character.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know him?
He's my boyfriend's ex-roommate.
Boyfriend?
Yes.
Ex-roommate?
Yes.
And when did he borrow your car?
February 21st. It was a Saturday morning.
What time did he borrow the car?
Around 8 a.m.
Why?
He wanted to go out to Walmart to buy breakfast food because his girlfriend was going to make us breakfast.
So you gave him the keys. What happened?
I was coming into Walmart, and I was taking a turn. The car skidded on the wet pavement, and I hit into the guardrail.
You going fast?
Speed limit, probably 55, 60.
But if you were making a turn, you usually slow down.
I did slow down, but obviously not enough.
So it was your fault?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it was your fault, don't you think you're responsible for paying the deductible, so she shouldn't be out of any money?
No, ma'am.
Well, now we're interested. So you had an accident, but it was your fault.
Mm-hmm.
So you explain to me why she should be out the $1,000 instead of you.
I believe I don't owe her the money because we didn't sign any kind of contract saying that I was going to pay her deductible if I crashed her car. You know, we didn't agree to that, none of that. And $1,000 deductible is just, to me, it's ridiculous.
You're going to break it down, aren't you?
What?
You're going to break it down, right? I just want to see this.
Just 1 second. Just 1 second. I want to see what a good pupil you have become over the last 20 years that we've known each other. Okay? Why don't you ask him the question? See? Ask him the question.
If you crashed a car and it's your fault and you admit that it's your fault, once again, why should she be out of $1,000 for your mistake?
Because she, after the accident, she just continued to disrespect me all the time. You know, when I was at the police station and got arrested, I went to.
We're not getting to that yet. Forget what happened at the police station. He asked a question. It's a perfect question. I couldn't have posed the question better myself.
I already told you. I don't think that I owe the money because I didn't sign no contract with her.
You don't have to sign a contract. What makes you think you have to sign a contract, Mr. Cobbs?
That's what I believe.
Do you believe that the earth is flat or round?
No, I think it's round, though.
Good, and you're right. But just because you believe that something is true doesn't make it so if it's not the law. Let me ask you this question, okay, because I can see we're dealing with... You're driving the car down the street, and you're going a little too fast, and you hit a lady who's crossing the street, and you break both of her legs, and her medical bills are $50,000, and she has no insurance. Got it so far? You following me? And you never signed a contract with her that if you hit her, you would pay her medical bills. Do we understand each other?
Yeah.
Who do you think would be responsible for her medical bills, you or her?
Me.
Good. And why would that be, even though you didn't have a written contract?
Broke her legs. Of course I have to pay for the hospital.
You broke her car.
Yeah, but she already got paid. They totaled the car.
No, she didn't already get paid, sir. She was out $1,000. They took $1,000 off of what they paid her because she has insurance with a $1,000 deductible. So she's out $1,000.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He told his boss, well, you shouldn't get him out because you're saying he has weapons at home. She's scared when he gets out that he's going to do something to her, he's going to harm her.
Did she say what kind of weapons he had at home?
She said he had a fishing knife.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Karen Lamb says her boyfriend's ex-roommate, James Cobbs III, owes for totaling her car. James says Karen badmouthed him to his boss, so he shouldn't have to pay.
So now let's get to what happened that caused you all of a sudden to be not responsible.
All right, well, the following Monday, I went to, I actually picked up a copy of the police report, and we brought it back to the house, and Karen and I filled it out. So after we filled it out, I agreed to go make a copy of it for her at the police station for her and her insurance company. When I got to the police station to make the copy of the report, they told me that I had a prior warrant in Brockton for another court fee, and they arrested me.
For another what?
A court fee.
So what happened when they told you that they had the warrant issued for you?
They arrested me.
That's what they do when there's a warrant. Let's hear the rest of it.
So after I got arrested, I started to make phone calls to make sure that I could get my bail money. I called my boss to inform them that if I didn't get out of jail that night, that I wasn't going to be at work the next day, so I didn't lose my job. I'm an electrical apprentice. I have a professional career, so I don't need to be playing around with work. So my boss agreed to come and pay the bail. He told my roommate, one of my other roommates, that he was going to come and
pay the bail.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So when he arrived at the police station, Karen was there, and when he got out the car, he was conversing with my cousin, he and his wife, and then Karen approached him and began to just ask him questions.
Okay, now you weren't there when this happened.
No, I was in the cell.
But you were?
Yes.
So step up here. And your name is?
Justin Cobb.
And you were there on the 23rd, something like that, of February?
Yes.
And you were outside the police station?
Yes.
What brought you to the police station that day?
Well, I got a call saying that he was in jail for whatever reason he was there for. So I came, and when I got there, she was there too. We was all there, you know what I'm saying? But she told his boss, well, you shouldn't get him out because he's bad. She's saying he has weapons at home. She's scared when he gets out that he's going to do something to her, he's going to harm her, which is not his whole personality.
Did she say what kind of weapons he had at home?
She said he had a fishing knife.
So he said he had a fishing knife at home?
Yeah, she said that he was going to hurt her or something. She thinks he's going to hurt him.
That's the way she felt? Right?
Yes.
You can have a seat.
Thank
you. Did you have a discussion with his boss?
Yes, I did.
What did you tell his boss?
His boss pulled up and said, are you here to bail out James? He said, yeah, why? Did you already do it? I go, no, I'm not bailing him out. And he said, why should I not bail him out? I go, you can do whatever you want. I'm just saying I'm not bailing him out. And he probably asked why. I don't really remember this too well, but I know I probably did say that he did have a knife at home. He did have a knife. I know I didn't say it was a fishing knife. I know nothing about knives. I have no idea what kind of knife it was, so I wouldn't have said a fishing knife. And I said, yeah, I didn't want him home because I had to return there to get my stuff. I was going back to school at night. I didn't want James to come home while I was still there.
Because he thought he might be angry that because of you sending him to the police station, he got arrested on a warrant, and you thought he might think it was your fault. You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please? After the accident, according to this police report, the airbags deployed. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
After you had the accident, you went directly home? Afterwards, where did he go?
He went to Stop and Shop because Walmart didn't have the breakfast food. He got the breakfast food at Stop and Shop, and then he went to a liquor store to buy a pack of cigarettes, and then he brought the car back.
That sound right?
No. I might have went to Stop and Shop, but I didn't go to no liquor store.
Yeah, just had an accident, sir. You totaled out her car.
But it's not like I got out the car limping. I broke my neck. I could still drive. I wasn't going to walk home.
Almost makes you wonder whether to invest in U.S. bonds. You had an accident. You were driving too fast. You weren't calculating the road conditions and your speed. It cost her $1,000. You are responsible for that. The fact that she indicated to your boss that she would not bail you out, that she was afraid of what would happen because you got yourself arrested and were incarcerated as a result, really, of this accident and your own prior irresponsibility, and she told your boss the truth about you having a knife at home, that is not slander, sir. That's the truth. And that's how she felt, and she's allowed to express that. That doesn't diminish your responsibility. You owe her $1,000. Judgment for the plaintiff and your counterclaim is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He did owe me $1,000.
She lost $1,000.
My car was totaled, so.
Because I probably want it back, too.
He said he was going to pay, and I guess he felt that I disrespected him.
There's no disrespect, you know what I'm saying?
So he didn't want to pay anymore, so I had to go to court.
The dog ran directly to Emily
and bit her on the face.
Next thing I know, she's screaming.
Her little girl attacked.
Took 15 stitches.
Is that where the dog bit you?
But the owner blames her.
You believe it was Emily's fault.
Right.
Here's my question for you, genius. How dare you bring an unleashed dog where there are children?
Judge Judy.
I didn't think anything like this would happen.
That's the dumbest thing.
Suing his ex-fiancée, insurance broker Stephanie Martell, for the return of an engagement ring and for stealing from his bank account while he was in jail.
Your Honor, this is case number 86 on the calendar in the matter of Balzolari versus Martell. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Mr. Balzolari, you and the defendant were engaged to be married and lived together.
That's correct.
Unfortunately, you were incarcerated for a period of time in a drug-related charge and then went into rehab. And it is your claim that during that period of time, Ms. Martell cleaned you out, took your property, took your money, broke up, and she won't return a very expensive engagement ring as well. Ms. Martell said all of that money was used to pay your bills, to pay for things for you while you were incarcerated, and she had to sell the engagement ring in order to pay those bills. Right?
Right.
Okay. When did you become engaged?
Your Honor, that was approximately 4/20. I'd purchased the ring. Here's a picture and a receipt. It was shortly after that we became engaged. And,
April 20th?
Yes, somewhere around that time.
Of what year?
02.
When was the wedding supposed to take place?
There was no date set.
What were you waiting for?
I don't know. For us both to agree on a certain date and, you know.
Okay. So you became engaged in April of 2002 and you were living together?
Yes.
When were you incarcerated?
It wasn't a drug. I'd like to correct that, Your Honor. That wasn't a drug-related charge. It was a felony charge. It was an impersonation charge, is what that was. It wasn't drug. I agreed to go into a drug court system.
Explain that to me, sir. You were convicted of what?
Criminal impersonation of a police officer. It was a felony charge, which at that time I was volunteered in a drug court in Rochester, New York.
Well, what did criminal impersonation have to do with drugs, sir? Why would you be placed in a drug court? I'll get to you in a second.
I was in...
If you can't give me the answer, because I'm going to get to the answer. If you can't give me the answer, I'll allow you to help me.
Okay, thank you.
All right?
Before I had that charge, Your Honor, I was in a voluntary drug outpatient program.
Okay.
And during that time, when the judge seen that, at that time I picked up the charge, she says, well, if you continue to stay sober and clean and continue your drug treatment program, we will dismiss the charge. And I failed to stay clean. So he incarcerated me and asked me if I wanted to do the time or do I want to help myself and change.
Mr. Borzelli, is what you're telling me, sir, that you pled guilty to criminal impersonation as a felony? The judge allowed you to remain at liberty as long as you were in a drug rehab program and remained drug-free. Is that what you're telling me?
No, there was no plea. My choice was...
Can I see those papers, please?
This was my whereabouts. The judge says, if you stay clean, we'll drop the charges and we're going to put you in drug court. Simple. If you stay clean for a year, we drop your charges. Conditional discharge.
Now I'll hear you, because this doesn't sound all right to me.
Exactly. We were friends. This is before we started dating. He was caught downtown in a well-known drug hotel impersonating a police officer. They forced him to go into drug court. It wasn't voluntary for him.
And then I assume that as part of this agreement that you had with the judge, you tested positive for drugs at some point?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then you went into jail. And you went into jail, according to this, On the 12th of January 2004 to the 20th of February 2004.
Correct.
So for a little more than 6 weeks.
Correct.
Okay. And is it during that time that you claim that Miss Martell cleaned you out?
Oh, yes.
Okay. During that 6-week period?
No, not entirely.
Well, when?
Well, cleaning out, I don't know where the cleaning out comes from, but I have a telephone bill. When she moved in, Your Honor, she was 6 months behind in her mortgage. She says, I want to get away from my ex-husband.
When are you talking about? What year?
02, when she moved in.
I'm not interested in 02. Pay careful attention to me.
What are you interested in?
1/12/04 until 2/20/04.
Okay.
Period.
Here's a bill. She agreed to pay my phone bill, never did.
Mr. Borzelli?
Yes.
Get to it, sir.
Get to it?
Yes. I'm not
phone
interested
bill,
in the phone bill.
Cable bill she didn't pay. Here's the pictures I have from my house.
I'm not interested in whether she didn't pay bills for 6 weeks, sir.
Okay, so what are you interested in?
Well,
I have a bill here, Your Honor.
It was my
home that I paid somebody.
Speaking, sir.
Go ahead.
You're asking me, and I'm telling you, it was my impression, sir, that what you were suing her for were two things: personal property and reimbursement of money taken without authorization is what you're suing for, plus the return or value of the engagement ring.
Okay, thank you. Right here, Your Honor, is a receipt from a $2,180 check. Mr. Grimes here, my witness, has cashed it, gave her $2,180. She only paid a mortgage payment of $960, and that's all. I have missing money.
So is what you're telling me that she cashed a check for $2,000 and that was your money?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And that she didn't pay sufficient amount of bills to cover that $2,100?
Yes.
Okay. She paid $900 in a mortgage. She did pay that for that period
almost
of time.
$1,000.
Here's the receipt, ma'am. It's
How much is the mortgage?
It was almost $1,000.
Excuse me. I have a receipt.
Just tell me how much it was.
$979.
Okay, so that's close to $1,000. So that's $979 out of $979 out of the $2,100 that she cashed. Okay, what else did you pay for out of that money?
$600 of Rochester Gas and Electric.
Your Honor, I have a receipt here for $1,000. She didn't pay squat. Or nothing, I should say.
Mr. Borzelli, put down your paper, sir. Okay. Where's the other
$200 from, this is what I wanted to say before, in December of 2002, he was incarcerated for a positive drug test. He went to jail for a week. I had $200 for that week of collect calls. When he went to jail the next time...
I'm not interested in 2002. What else?
Commissary money I brought to the jail.
How much?
I believe $80.
Okay, little bits of money. Let's talk about the engagement ring. Gave you an engagement ring. Clearly, it is an engagement ring. It's a solitaire. Where is it?
I sold it.
Did you?
Yes.
When? Look at me.
February.
Don't look in the air.
February of this year.
Show me. Show me.
I don't have a
receipt. You sell a
receipt.
$14,000 ring, you have a receipt. You have something.
I sold it to a family jeweler.
I don't believe you. You're lying to me. Because if you sold it to a family jeweler and you knew you were coming to court, you would have said to the jeweler, can I have a receipt for the ring that I sold?
I could have, yes.
Well, where did you think you were coming today? To a tea dance?
No.
You were coming to court.
Right.
Court takes evidence. You're full of baloney.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What? She was responsible enough to sell it to her family jeweler.
I don't believe her, and I don't believe you.
And later today,
John grabbed his dog, Buddha, kind of just pulled him back a little bit and then pushed him off. As soon as he pushed him off, he ran directly to Emily. The very next thing I know, she's screaming.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Borzelli says ex-fiancée Stephanie Martell owes for the return of money and an engagement ring. Stephanie claims she sold the ring to pay bills while Robert was locked up.
Okay, it wasn't your ring. Now, even if you sold it, you had no right to sell it. It was your ring only if the contract to get married to Mr. Borzelli was consummated. It was not. The ring is given as a gift in contemplation of a marriage. Your argument is that you had to sell the ring to pay off bills. What bills did you have to pay off? What?
To maintain, he asked me to stay in his house and to maintain his house.
6 weeks. What bills did you have to pay in 6 weeks that he did not cover with the $2,100 that you took out of his account.
I had to come up with money to move out of the house.
That's your problem. Are you over 18?
Yes.
Deal with it. That's your problem. That's not his problem. What?
I was just going to say that first and foremost...
Say something by standing up.
Sure.
What?
First and foremost, she was responsible enough to do what she had to do to take the engagement ring and sell it to her family jeweler.
I don't believe her, and I don't believe you. She did not sell this ring to a family jeweler, because if she did, the jeweler is responsible by law to give her a receipt. Do you understand?
I do understand.
And this wasn't a little ring for $300. This was a solitaire, which she paid over $14,000 for, and if you expect me to believe that she sold that ring in February to pay bills for him, which is what she alleges in his answer, I don't buy it.
That's
judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, which is the maximum that I can award to you, sir. I want you to listen to me very carefully. You can put everything else away. I'm not interested at all about any other money she owes you, because the ring covers it. Do you understand? Clearly. I assume that you sued her in small claims court because it's the only way that you thought you'd get any money at all, and you wouldn't have to hire a lawyer to sue her civilly anyplace else. You are entitled to that ring back, because an engagement ring is not an absolute gift until the marriage is fulfilled, and it was never fulfilled, right?
Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff. Out.
Parties are excused.
It's wrong on his part. The reason we didn't get married was his actions.
I gotta hand it to Miss Martell. I really do. She's very consistent. Every time her lips move, there's a lie.
I didn't want to be with him anymore, and he was upset by that.
You've heard of the deal saying, good pet's gone bad? Well,
he was threatening me because I wanted to move out for a while for him to straighten up.
How threatening am I? 140 pounds, 5'4"?
Ooh. And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Pritchard versus Butler. Step forward, please.
Legal assistant Tanya Pritchard is suing her former friend, roofer John Butler, for medical bills. Tanya says John's pit bull bit her 5-year-old daughter in the face.
Mrs. Pritchard, this is your little girl, I assume. Is that right? Her name is?
Emily May Lowry.
And Emily was bitten by a dog that is owned by Mr. Butler. And she was bitten on the lip.
Correct.
She had some surgery.
Yes.
She's going to need probably some more.
Yes.
And you are suing him for $4,000 for both her prior care and the care that she will probably need in the future, as well as some pain and suffering.
Correct.
And Mr. Butler says that it was Emily's fault and your fault. Correct, sir?
Correct.
Ah. When was your daughter bitten?
Where or when?
When?
When? September 6, 2003.
Next question is where?
We were at a company picnic potluck.
What does that mean?
It was a gathering with the company my fiance works for. So we were at a company potluck picnic. Everybody brings some stuff, and we just all get together. And
how many people were there?
At the beginning, probably around 100.
Did there come a time where there were more or less people in the 100?
Yes. After the softball game, about 3/4 of the people left.
What time did this incident happen where Mr. Butler's dog bit your daughter?
About 15 minutes before 8.
Had Mr. Butler been there the entire day?
He had been there during the picnic and the potluck, and then after the picnic and potluck and softball game, he left.
Where did you go, sir?
I went to go get my dogs.
Why did you leave to go and get your dogs?
I figured it'd be a good idea for them to run around in the field so I could throw the frisbee for them.
So you got them to play?
Right.
Had you been drinking that day, sir?
I've had a few beers.
A few is more than 2?
2 beers.
Well, was it 2 or more than 2?
A couple, 2.
A couple, 2. And when you left to pick up your dogs and you brought them back, did you bring them back on leashes or not?
Not on leashes at all.
Why not?
I don't ever put leashes on my dogs.
Well, when your dogs are around other people, isn't it usually a wise idea to keep them on leashes, sir?
I've never had a problem before.
How long have you had these dogs?
I've had Buddha for 2 years.
Buddha?
Buddha.
Is that the dog that bit Emily?
Yes, ma'am.
And how old is Buddha?
3.5.
So that he was 1.5 years old when you got him?
Yes, ma'am.
Now tell me about when your daughter was bitten by Buddha.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Here's my question for you, genius. If you know your dog is skittish around children, how dare you bring an unleashed dog to a picnic where there are children?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tanya Pritchard says former friend John Butler owes for her daughter's medical bills. Tanya says John's pit bull bit her in the face.
Go ahead.
Okay, John came back with the dogs, let them loose. They were running around. The people who stayed decided to play horseshoes, so we all moved to the horseshoe pit area. The children that were there were playing right behind our chairs, and our chairs were facing the horseshoe pit so that we could see what was going on. Buddha was actually in the way of the horseshoe game that was trying to get underway, and he kept running in front of everybody that was trying to throw the horseshoes. So everybody was telling John to get the dogs out of the way. John grabbed his dog, Buddha, kind of just pulled him back a little bit and told him to stay out of the way, and then pushed him off. As soon as he pushed him off and let go, he ran directly to Emily. The very next thing I know, she's screaming. As soon as he let go and said, "Go away," the dog ran and jumped up and bit her.
And bit her on the face?
Yes.
Describe that moment.
I actually have pictures of it.
I'd like to see the photographs.
The bite, we were told by the surgeon that there was only 1 millimeter of skin hanging.
Can I see it? Don't tell me what the surgeon said. That's hearsay. Emily, could you come up here so I could take a look at your lips, sweetheart? Come on. You're a very pretty little girl. Is that where the dog bit you? Did it hurt? Very pretty. Do you know my name? You know what my job is? No? Do you know who your dad is? Would you like to go and sit down next to him? Go ahead. Go and sit down. Okay. All right, well, this is a pretty nasty bite. How many stitches did she have?
It took 15 stitches. 10 of them were on the inside, and then 5 of them were on the outside.
What do you have there?
I have an estimate from the plastic surgeon of how much the dermabrasion is going to cost. Okay. The dermabrasion is where they just grind it down a little bit to get rid of those bumps.
Okay. Okay. And Mr. Butler, were you present when Buddha bit Emily?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me first your version of how that happened, sir.
Everybody's playing horseshoes, and I was talking to a fellow co-worker, and he was falling down on me. He was intoxicated. And people were playing horseshoes, and I was waiting my turn to play the horseshoes. And all the little kids were playing Frisbee and throwing the ball behind all the adults. I think there's like 2 to 3 dogs out there, I don't know. And I just heard a little scream, and everybody was freaking out, and then I found out that one of the dogs had bit the little girl. So I grabbed both my dogs, and I put them in the truck, and then I went and grabbed some ice for the little girl.
You knew it was your dog?
Well, I brought 2 dogs.
You didn't know which of your 2 dogs had done it?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of dog is Buddha?
He's Pit Bull and Boston Terrier.
How much does he weigh?
25 pounds.
Now, I read your answer very carefully, and your answer said that you believe it was Emily's fault.
Right.
I'd like you to tell me why you believe, sir, it's Emily's fault.
Well, the dog had been abused as a puppy, so it was kind of skittish around kids. So what I think happened was she had a stick or something in her hand and was most likely trying to get the dog's attention so that the dog would chase the stick that she was trying to throw for it. So she was probably hitting the dog and screaming it, and the dog freaked out and bit her.
Okay, so let's go back to that. When you got the dog was a year old.
Right.
Year and a half old. And the person from whom you purchased the dog or from whom you got the dog had told you that the dog had been abused as a puppy.
Right.
By children?
By a child, yes.
By a child. Is that the reason that they were getting rid of the dog?
That was the reason why.
So you knew that the dog was skittish around kids?
I'd never seen it, but that's what they have told me.
Then here's my question for you, genius. If you know your dog is skittish around children, how dare you bring an unleashed dog to a picnic where there are children?
I didn't think anything like this would happen.
You didn't think, which means you didn't use your brain. Is that right?
That's right.
So then, why don't you just say, it's my fault and I'm responsible?
It's not.
No, whose fault is it? It's Emily's fault. Emily had prior knowledge that your dog was skittish around children. This 5-year-old had that information? Take your hands out of your pockets. I just asked you a question.
No, the child did not know, but the parent...
But you knew.
I knew.
Right. You knew. So what you're supposed to do is keep a dog like that within your control at all times. Not bring a dog who's been abused by children and skittish around children to a picnic. Because that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. You know, ordinarily, I may not even think that punitive damages are appropriate, but your stupidity is absolutely worth punitive damages. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I do kind of feel bad, but I think it, you know, a child hitting a dog and stuff like that, just to come.
As I held her lip onto her face on the way to the hospital, I realized that she was going to be scarred, and it hurt very deeply.
He has to wear a muzzle, and he has to be harnessed up now.
I waited to let my emotions out until she was being stitched up, and then I walked out of the room and broke down.
I work with the husband every day. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard to, hard to look at him, hard to deal with him, due to what happened, someone attacking your little girl.
I don't believe in leashes.
Leashes are a definite unless you have your dogs under complete voice control.
Animals are like people, too.
I've actually heard hearsay that the dog has done other things since then.
I just hope we can all put this behind us.
I looked at her and I said, "Get back in your car, you fat b-."
It was more than road rage.
You decided to blind him with your lights.
I knocked on her car once.
You kicked her car. You didn't knock her with your tongue.
She shoved me as hard as she could.
Maybe she was a nut.
Judge Judy.
What do you do when you come in contact with a nut?
Proceed in the opposite direction. So.
No, I'm not finished with my... Officer Bird and I have a counterclaim. And these two people were involved in an incident of road rage. Each one of them got a little out of hand. So Ms. Sullivan is suing the defendant for damage she says he did to her car when he kicked her car with a boot, I assume, that boot. And then for having her falsely arrested for assault. Mr. Von Prague says she did in fact assault him. He is suing her for that. And he's also suing her for damage she did to his motorcycle. When she pushed him off the motorcycle, he lost control of it and it was damaged. They're going to try to explain to me by the use of these charts why each of them was right. You were driving your car, Miss Sullivan. You were coming from where? Show me.
I was coming from here and was stopped at the stoplight there.
Stopped at a stoplight. And then according to what I sort of put together in your complaint, you got a phone call.
Yes.
While you were stopped at the stoplight.
Correct.
And that phone call said that somebody you knew was taken to the hospital. You had to change direction.
Correct. Later on down the road.
Now, show me where you had to go after you got this phone call.
The phone call was complete before I moved my car. The light was red. I was in this lane. I was going to have to be in number 2 lane later down the road because I did not want to get on the freeway. I wanted to go straight to the hospital. There's quite a bit of traffic, so I knew it was going to take me quite a while to get over, so I put my turn signal on. You have to keep this clear, and there was congestion all over, so when the light turned green, there was one other car in front of me. It proceeded through when it was safe and could clear the intersection. I slowly started to go through. I accelerated when I see I could make it through the intersection. Just as I entered the intersection, I flashed, went by my driver's side, and then cut in front of me, right about here where the median is.
Okay. So what did you do?
I flashed my lights at him, kind of like to say...
Just a minute.
Yes?
He passed you.
Correct.
Safely passed you. Didn't hit you.
Correct.
And you could have just kept on going and meandered over to the right.
Correct.
But you chose to flash your brights at him.
Correct.
In an act of road rage.
If you want to interpret that way?
Well, that's what it is.
Okay.
You flashed your lights on, hoping to annoy him, because he, according to you, went around you too fast and cut in front of you.
There is not a lane of traffic where he passed me.
What happened next?
Well, I proceeded, someone let me in, so after I made it through the intersection, I made it into the number 2 lane. Good. Traffic was stopped. My car wasn't completely in the number 2 lane. It was kind of like at an angle, but I was completely in the number 2 lane.
Okay, what happened next?
Traffic was stopped. I had an SUV next to me. I saw the headlight of the gentleman's motorcycle come out from behind the SUV, so I assumed he was going to go between the two of us, as many motorcycles do. And then I heard and felt something hit my car. Mm-hmm. I immediately got out because I figured he hit my car trying to go between us. And I said, "What the hell are you doing?"
You didn't say hell.
Yes, I said hell.
No, it's not even what you say here, you said to him. What are you doing? Okay, you said, what are you doing?
Well, I didn't say I used profanity, as we both did. He started yelling at me, saying I tried to kill him. He said he kicked my car to get my attention. Mm-hmm. And that he yelled that I tried to kill him. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, you're the one that did a evasive move in traffic through the intersection and cutting in front of me. You're the one that could have caused hurt. Okay? So words continued to go, just yelling back and forth. All I could see was his eyes and his mouth. He had a helmet on. And I saw something in his eye, and his whole body in the motorcycle came forward. And I just had a split reaction to defend myself. I put my hands out in front of me, extended my arms, and backed up. Correct.
Pushed him.
Correct.
Okay, and what happened when you pushed him?
He jumped off the bike. Okay. As I'm backing away, he went to lay the bike down. He had his hand on the handle of the grip, and as he laid it down, it kind of spun a little bit. It revved up. I saw the back tire turn. It made contact with the ground. The bike rotated once, twice. He reached back, and I guess it's the throttle or whatever, and stopped from revving. He started jumping around, yelling and screaming, and I continued to proceed to my car, backing up, got into my car. He yelled about calling the police. I said, go right ahead, and I'm going to. I wanted to leave the scene because I felt unsafe. I didn't know what he was going to do.
Well, Sullivan, why did you get out of your car in the first place?
It's just reaction. I thought he hit my car. It was an accident. We need to get out and exchange information. I didn't know he did it aggressively. Well,
once you realized what it was, why didn't you quickly get back into your car instead of standing out there in the street with traffic all around you, screaming and yelling at him?
I don't know. I guess I wanted him to hear my side. He's saying I tried to kill him. I said, no, I didn't. You're the one that did something evasive and illegal.
Now, at some point, you say that police arrived and you told them your side of the story. You told them your side of the story. Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. But then the next day, you went to the police station.
Correct.
To file a supplementary report.
Correct.
Why?
Because when I came out, we had first looked, it was dark. They tried to look with a flashlight, and they couldn't see the dent in my car. You could see like the outline of a foot on each side. So when I came out the next morning, sun out, you could see the dent. So I went back to the police station just so they could put that in record that there was damage to my car.
All right. Can I see the initial police reports, please?
I have all the supplementals attached. Do you
when
want
were
those?
you arrested for assault?
I wasn't arrested. I was charged.
Charged?
I received it in mid-April.
Good. Can I see it, please? It says that you did willfully and unlawfully use force upon a person, to wit, Anthony Von Prague. You did do that.
To protect myself, yes.
Well, I haven't heard protecting yourself. He didn't put his hands on you.
He had a 600-pound motorcycle that himself and the motorcycle moved towards me.
You say in your initial report to the police, you don't say that he lunged forward with his motorcycle. What you say is she got out of the car, she saw Von Prague. It's at one point she thought she saw Von Prague and his motorcycle lunge toward her. Out of instinct and self-defense, she put her hands out and pushed Von Prague on his right side, okay? So you don't say that he moved the motorcycle. You say to the police, you thought he moved the motorcycle.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't gotten to him yet.
I understand.
I haven't gotten to him yet. I'm just telling you that I think that your behavior that day was stupid.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And what do you do when you come in contact with a nut?
The smart thing to do would be just to proceed in the opposite direction. Yes, Your Honor. So I knocked on her car once.
No, I'm not finished with my...
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cindy Sullivan says fellow motorist Nico Van Prague kicked her car. Nico claims Cindy assaulted him.
Now, we're going to hear from you.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, Your Honor, I was proceeding in the number 1 lane here with my motorcycle. The defendant was trying to cross over into the number 3 lane, which is the northbound lane getting onto the freeway here, and she had blocked traffic essentially in all 3 lanes at this point. Her car, the majority of her car was in lane number 2, but the rear of her car was still sticking into lane number 1. I proceeded around the rear of her vehicle, opposite of her path to travel. There was about at least half the lane exposed there, and I continued on. The next thing I know, both my mirrors are filled with lights, and I look at my mirrors and I see a vehicle coming up about twice my speed, straddling the center line. So this vehicle had now gone in, come back into the number 1 lane and number 2 lane, and she went by me while swerving to the left slightly, and I was between the curb and the side of her car.
So she passed you?
No, she buzzed me. She went by me fast and in my lane.
I understand that. After... Shh, listen to what I'm saying, sir.
Yes.
You say she buzzed you.
Correct.
After she's shown her lights in your mirror.
Correct.
You say she passed you.
That is correct.
That's
yes.
all I want you to
yes.
say. You say buzzed, I say passed. She went.
Sure.
She passed you.
She went past my vehicle.
Right.
And she went by at such a high rate of speed, I actually felt the wind of her car through my armored pants. We came to a stop Actually, she was in the number 2 lane, as she described. I was still in the number 1 lane. Her vehicle was very close to the center line. I don't think it was crossing over the line into the number 1 lane, but she was very close to me, and I was lined up with her rear quarter panel. I was yelling at her because I had no idea why she had just done this to me, why she had just nearly
Maybe
run.
she was a nut.
Maybe she was.
And what do you do when you come in contact with a nut and you're on a motorcycle and they're in a car?
Well, Your Honor,
what is the smart thing to do?
The smart thing to do would be just to proceed in the opposite direction.
That's
yes.
right.
That's right.
But
That's
you
right.
opted not to do that. You opted to tell her how dumb she was.
Well,
by getting her attention.
That is true.
By kicking her car.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. So I knocked on her car once.
No, I'm not finished with my...
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. As you would say, I acted badly.
Yes, you did.
And
perfect. Just to say, I have an acknowledgement that you acted badly.
I am willing to fess up in anything I've done in this situation. So
go ahead.
So at this point, I knocked on the car once with the side of my boot.
No. Listen, I want you to use the word that I'm going to use.
Kick. I kicked her car once with my boot.
You know he's a fast learner.
Yes.
Right?
I kicked her car once with the side of my boot. This is the boot here.
Right, now that we've used the boot, could you put the boot on the floor, please?
Yes. I brought the other one in case you want them. So at this point, her door flew open. She came running up to my right-hand side, and I was still in the motorcycle. It's a 600-pound motorcycle. The motorcycle was in gear. Both hands were on the handlebar, and the kickstand was in the up position. And at this point, the traffic was just beginning to proceed, starting with the number 3 lane and starting to work its way over.
Okay.
So
the lanes weren't going anywhere because her car was stopped.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
Yes. So she comes flying out of her car. She says, "Why the F did you kick my car?" And I said, "Why the F did you try to kill me? What are you trying to do? You're trying to kill me." And she ran through the list of names, a-hole, et cetera, and I was sitting there. She was in an absolute rage. At this point, traffic was continuing to move. Cars were honking behind us. And I looked at her and I said, "Get back in your car, you fat bee."
Go ahead.
She looked at me, she started shaking, and
quiet.
And she shoved me as hard as she could from my right-hand side. Well, once she shoved me, the motorcycle went over, and at this point, I had to take my hand off the clutch, and that's why the motorcycle started spinning around in circles. I luckily had landed on my feet. And I said, "I'm calling the cops." I went over and got her license plate number even before I shut off the motorcycle, and went back, shut off the motorcycle. At this point, she proceeded to the number 3 lane, got onto the freeway northbound. I called the police, and I told them what direction she was proceeding, and they went and sent a separate police car and went and chased her down and brought her back to the scene.
That's not correct.
Well, where were you stopped?
I went to the hospital, which is straight ahead. I did not get on 101 north
Just a minute.
or south.
So you went to the hospital?
Correct.
Go ahead.
I called Twin City Police Department, and they told me there were policemen on site to go ahead and return to the incident.
Okay, so you came back by yourself? Or
correct.
You came back by yourself?
She came back following a police car.
That is not correct.
Well, it is correct.
No, it is not correct.
She came back following the police car, otherwise she wouldn't even known where we were stopped.
I know exactly where the incident was.
Don't speak to him.
In talking to... I'm sorry.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You kicked her car. You didn't knock her with your tongue. You kicked her with your boot.
I'll demonstrate to you that I don't have the ability of doing that with this boot.
And how are you going to demonstrate that to me, sir?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cindy Sullivan claims fellow motorist Nico Van Prague kicked a dent into the side of her car.
I'd like to see the damage done to your motorcycle.
These are the pictures of the damage, and this is the written estimate. Those pictures were taken the day after. As you'll see from the pictures, the corner of the side bag is ground flat, which confirms the fact that the motorcycle was in gear when it fell over. I also have an affidavit from the BMW dealer who inspected it.
Not necessary.
Okay.
Okay, now let me see the damage caused when Mr. Van Prague kicked your car, which you did, sir. Is that right?
This is the car.
Is that right?
I knocked her in her car once, yes.
You kicked her car. You didn't knock her with your tongue, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You kicked her with your boot.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you kicked her, and you were angry.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you didn't tap her, you kicked it, and you caused a little dimple in her car.
I'll demonstrate to you that I don't have the ability of doing that with this boot or my ability of sitting on the motorcycle.
And how are you going to demonstrate that to me, sir?
Well, I have the boot here, and I also have photographs of me on the motorcycle with a kicking action. It's a very high motorcycle. It's 600 pounds. It has a 33-inch seat height, and I'm only 5'11", so I'm actually on my tippy toes when I'm sitting on the motorcycle. I have a very limited range of motion when I'm sitting on the motorcycle.
Unless you're really angry.
Well, even if I'm angry, Your Honor.
Can I see a picture of the whole car?
I will show you these pictures.
I'm sorry, I do not have one.
Well, where is this ding in your car?
I have estimates here, but it's in the rear driver's side of the vehicle.
Your Honor, that's a BMW 7 Series. It's very thick sheet metal. If I could do that with any boot, I would at least have to be off the motorcycle. It's also above the bumper in an inset place, and there's no damage to the tail light or the surrounding bumper. So it would be a very difficult angle of attack to be able to get into
Well, let me ask
area.
you this question, sir. Why would you think that Ms. Sullivan would go and file a supplementary report the next day?
I think to defend herself, because it was so clear that she had assaulted me, and it was so clear that she had caused damage to my motorcycle that I thought she...
That's a reasonable explanation. Eventually, these charges were dismissed. Is that right?
Correct.
Good. Were you notified of the dismissal of these battery charges, sir?
I had a discussion with the second DA who took over the case about 2 weeks prior to the trial, and he said that he would like to discuss the evidence with me. He felt that it should be best handled in small claims court.
Okay.
And at that time, I had explained to him that I would rather be done with the issue than take it to court again. But I was disappointed in their decision.
Okay. Felt as if it wasn't worth the trouble of going to trial.
Correct.
Okay. I have to establish to my satisfaction, based on common sense, what happened that day. And what happened that day was Mr. Von Prague was in a hurry, and he wanted to get around you, which he did. And that irritated you because he probably went around to your senses too fast. Instead of letting it rest, which would have avoided any and all confrontation, you decided to, at night, blind him with your lights by flashing your high beams. Unnecessary. Then Mr. Von Prague did something that was more stupid than your flashing your lights at him. He thought that you were trying to hurt him, and he didn't know what kind of a nut you were. So instead of just letting it rest and proceeding on his way, where were you going, Mr. Von Prague?
Home.
Home.
From work.
He decided to kick your car. Very stupid. Now, the next stupid thing that happened was you, not knowing what kind of a nut Mr. Von Prague is, decide to get out of your car and confront him by saying, "What the blank did you do to my car?" So you knew what happened because you got out and said to him, "What the blank are you doing?" And that car's all around you. He responded, "And what the blank are you doing trying to kill me?" And as my father's joke would go, the fight was on. But then, Miss Sullivan, you did something that you're not permitted to do. You put your hands on him, and I find that you were not defending yourself. I find that you were furious, and in a fit of anger, you pushed him off his motorcycle and caused about $660 worth of damage to his motorcycle. That's what you did.
Not in anger.
Yes, it was. It was in anger because you got out of the car angry. You were angry enough at him to put your brights on when he passed you instead of letting it rest. You were that angry. Instead of just letting it rest, you flashed your brights on him. I mean, I've been driving a car for more years than you're old, and I'm telling you, the only time you do that is when you are really PO'd. And if that's not the only time you do it, then you're a very bad driver. In any event, you're not getting a nickel to fix the ding in your car. All I'm doing, sir, is taking out what I consider the $60 that it probably will take to fix the ding in our car from the $660 that you want to fix your motorcycle. And since you behaved equally as badly that day, would you say that that's true, sir? Because you put your foot on her car in anger, giving you a judgment on your counterclaim for $600. That's all. Step in.
Parties are excused.
It's sad to think that a woman can't protect herself.
Well, I think that we both acted badly.
A man admittedly aggressively hitting my car.
I was really upset about being run off the road.
I felt threatened. His bike came towards me.
And it was the wrong thing to do, but I was trying to get an explanation as to why she threatened my life.
Just pay attention to my own self and ignore anybody else's responses or reactions.
I would look the other way and have been since.